presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Platform. We are St. Louis.
The world-famous St. Louis Arch, and that means we're at the home of the world champions. The St. Louis Cardinals looking for a sweep this afternoon as they play host to the Pittsburgh Pirates in day baseball. What a night in Game 2 for Carlos Beltran. He is in the lineup this afternoon. He went 4 for 5, pair of home runs and a career-high 7 RBIs. Mike Matheny inserted him into the cleanup spot. It paid dividends in the first inning off of A.J. Burnett. A no-doubter. His first of 2 on the night. He had to wait on this one. Another 3-run homer. The official review and replay showed that it was a home run. Touch 'em all, Carlos. Your second of the night. And with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Welcome to Day Baseball here on Fox Sports Midwest. The Cardinals homestand began over the weekend with the Cardinals winning 2 of 3 against Milwaukee. Now looking for a sweep. And, Ricky, this team has really come together.
They really found their offense, Dan. We've seen a lot of offense the last couple of days. The Cardinals are just pounding the baseball, and they're doing it with some power. And, of course, they're riding outstanding starting pitching. Jake Westbrook gets the nod this afternoon.
And we'll take a look at those 2 starters when we come back. The lefty, Eric Bedard, looking for his second win. He's 1-4. How about Jake Westbrook? Lost weight. He's refound that sinker. He's been terrific. the Cardinals look for the sweep today on Fox Sports Midwest. Redbirds face a lefty in Eric Bedard. We've seen him before. He's got a tough record of 1-4, but the numbers bear out he's better than that.
He has an outstanding curveball, an American League pitcher most of his career. He's a guy that's injury prone. He pitched very well against the Cardinals. Cardinals were able to win that game, but he has gotten no support. Jake Westbrook, on the other hand, has gotten plenty of support, and he's been nasty. His sinker and his slider a lot better than a year ago.
A couple of veterans helping their team last night in the major leagues, and also history was made. You may have been sleeping. It happened on the West Coast. Find out what it's all about when we come back. It's just a crazy night. A lot of fun. Ian Desmond, Chipper Jones, Jason Giambi, all with walk-off homers. How about Jones and Giambi, part of that 40-something club? Also, on the West Coast, history was made. It was Jared Weaver picking up a no-hitter. He's a California native, grew up a Dodger fan, now pitching for the Angels. His dad and mom in the stands. He gets the win, he gets the no-hitter, and he gets it in front of the hometown crowd.
And a lot of talk in the early going about this being the year of the pitcher. We've seen a perfect game and a no-hitter already, but hard to believe it's the year of the pitcher when we've seen the Cardinal offense the last couple of days against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
We've had a lot of blasts and a lot of fun considering how this offense has gone here in St. Louis. You're going to see some of those home runs and big hits from the first month of the season. The plays of April coming up next. looking for the sweep this afternoon. Pittsburgh and St. Louis in game number 3. First month of the season in the books. Let's take a look at the plays of the month for the Redbirds.
Vermont strikes him out, and the Cardinals win, spoiling it for the Marlins fans.
The high, towering drive, right field, and this ball is gone. And a swing and a miss. And this is hit into center. He's at the wall. It's gone. At the track, it's at the wall, and this is gone.
Ground ball up the middle, and it's a base hit. Here's another line drive. Base hit to left. This ball is deep. This ball is gone. Matt Carpenter. It's a long one to ride off the bat of Beltran. It's deep, and it's gone.
Pitch. Freeze lines it into right field. David Freeze again with 2 outs comes through. Schumacher hits it out to deep left center field. 2 runs will score. Racing in with a triple. The Cardinals are on top. Jay with a base hit into center. Base hit into left center.
Game on the line here. Line drive to right field. Jay Bruce catches it. Strong arm throw to the plate, and he is safe at the plate, and the Cardinals win it.
By Smooth Bush Beer and easy drinking Bush Light. By your Mid-America Chevy dealers, the #1 selling brand in St. Louis. Find us at stlchevy.com. By Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 for quality tires and expert auto service. And by Steak and Shake, just no equal. A gorgeous afternoon for baseball here in the Gateway City. And a look at the Pirates lineup. Tabata, Presley, and McCutcheon in the first. Then Walker, Alvarez, and Jones. Barmes, McHenry, and Eric Bedard. Longtime American League pitcher. And so is Jake Westbrook, who spent a good majority of his career over in the American League with the Cleveland Indians and now pitching for St. Louis.
Coming off a good start, not just one start, but several. No walks, 5 strikeouts in a win against the Milwaukee Brewers.
Here's a fly ball out to right, backing up Shane Robinson, and makes the catch. 1 pitch and 1 away. The defense is Holiday, Jay, and Robinson in the outfield. Freeze for Cowell, Green and Craig along the infield. Behind the plate, Tony Cruz. Around the Horn is presented by Dobbs. Mike Matheny and the Cardinals lead the division by 4.5 games over Cincinnati. Every team, with the exception of St. Louis in the Central Division, is under the 500 mark. And the strike to Alex Presley.
Been interesting to watch Mike Matheny develop as a manager. I think when we came out of spring training, there was a lot of talk about what kind of manager he would be, and really none of us knew, and I don't think he even knew.
As Tony would say, in talking about managing now and managing the St. Louis Cardinals, it's dealing with personalities. He felt that Mike would be great with the X's and O's and the strategy of when to pull the starter, bullpen moves as that ball is tipped by Presley, but it was about managing veterans and figuring out the right time to approach certain players and push the right buttons.
And that's part of what he has in front of him in the month of May, and he's talked about how to get Matt Holliday and how to get Lance Berkman, of course he's hurt now, but get rest for some of his veteran players. When to bring players back who are hurt, like Alan Craig. They're saying they're ready, but maybe sometimes you got to think for them. And that's what he said with the veteran players. Beltran getting the day off today. Sure, he'd love to be playing, but Mike Matheny making the decision that it's probably best in the long run to get him some rest.
1 ball and 2 strikes, and Presley fights it off into center field. Jay coming on. He'll make the catch on the run. And there's 2 away. John Jay. You know, we talk a lot about Edmonds never making a false step. That wasn't always the case with Colby Rasmus. A lot of times a false step or a bad route, but John Jay very solid defensively.
Probably not as athletic as Colby Rasmus, but the instincts are much better, and he does get good jumps on the ball. A couple of fly balls already against Jake Westbrook. We may not see another fly ball for about 5 innings.
Here's Andrew McCutchen at game 2 off last night. You think about as a center fielder trying to read it off the bat. Here's a ground ball that's pulled foul. And righties and lefties and how they slice and move with different balls coming at you.
And there's the instinct you have to have. This ball hit off a left-hander, will go right to left, kind of inside out a little bit. That swing did not really hit that ball in the screws, and that's what a center fielder has to read based on the sound, the swing, and what his eyes are telling him about the trajectory of the baseball, and otherwise you get fooled and you end up in the wrong spot.
Well, this is a player the Pirates certainly can build around. They've locked him up long term. Andrew McCutchen, 25-year-old from Florida, 11th overall pick in 2005, All-Star last year, which was his 2nd full season in the big leagues. On a hop, Green has got it. The soft hands makes the play. And a 1-2-3 inning for Jake Westbrook. Cardinals coming up in their half of the first. You're watching Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest. For Kyle, Jay, and Holliday. Then Freese, Craig, Robinson, Green, Cruz, Westbrook. Starting 9 in the lineup for Mike Matheny today. And the Cardinals face a lefty and Eric Bedard.
Bedard had a rough start to the season, not really on his account, but no offense behind him. 5 starts, he's just 1-4, but look at the earned run average, 2.48. 12 walks, a little high,
for his innings pitched, but the strikeout total is good. The key to his success, and the Pirates knew it when they got him, is how long will he stay healthy.
Last season he made 24 starts, and that was split between Seattle and Boston. And he was charged with 3 earned runs or less in 20 of those 24 starts. So gives you an idea his stuff is pretty good. And as you talked about, Rick, it's been a lack of run support for Bedard that's cost him in that win department.
He's got to overcome that frustration of not getting support. Adam Wainwright has had to deal with the same thing on the Cardinals side.
Here's a 0-1 pitch to Rafael Furcal.
Except his last start, where they more than made up for it.
Furcal on the homestand with 6 hits. And he hits this down the left field line, but foul. Last night was his 3rd straight 2-hit game. And he now leads the team with 10 multi-hit games.
And he's crushing the ball right-handed. He seems so comfortable from the right side, just attacking the baseball. We've seen him go deep in this homestand from the right side, and really looks confident from that side of the plate.
Big gap in left center. Here's the 1-2. You mentioned it, Rick, a few moments ago. When you think about Bedard, it's that very good breaking ball that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's where he gets his strikeouts. Doesn't throw overly hard. Nice easy mechanics, nice easy delivery, not much complication to it. Sometimes it just helps to be left-handed.
As you know. Here's a 2-2. It's interesting you say that, because Jake Westbrook the other day was telling me that with his sinker, he said it's almost like being left-handed. He said, right, ever since I picked up a baseball, I always could sink the ball and have natural movement like the lefties do.
So miles per hour is almost irrelevant when you talk about a pitcher like Westbrook. And with left-handers, you can kind of throw it out the door a little bit. He's throwing 87 right now, but you know, lefties just tend to be crafty. That's the word we always use.
You can see where Bedard begins his motion. He's on the 3rd base side of the rubber, but actually plants on the 1st base side, that lead leg. So in many ways throws across his body. Three and 2 the count.
Very important in a pitcher's mechanics, Dan, that they don't get out in front too quickly with their lower half, because the arm ends up dragging. So most pitchers will develop some kind of a checkpoint to make sure they stay over top of the rubber. I think one of his checkpoints is he starts by bringing his foot towards 3rd and then goes straight up to make sure he stops and then goes to the plate.
And this is a good at bat here by Furcal. Well, Jake had a total of 10 pitches in the top of the 1st, and already 9 coming up to Rafael Furcal, which is the job of a leadoff man. Make him work. And Rafael Furcal wins this battle on his way to 2nd base. Leadoff double for Furcal.
So even better, make him work and then hit a double.
Talking with Furcal the other day about trying to see as many pitches as you can and then go back and report what you see to your teammates, as Presley, McCutcheon, and Tabata will start in the outfield. Alvarez, Barmes, Walker, and Jones along the infield. And Michael McHenry, noted for his defenses behind the plate and around the horn, is brought to you by Dobbs. So you see those pitches, the changeup, a cutter, curveball, fastball. You go back in that dugout and let your teammates know.
Yeah, and they're watching. They're totally watching from the dugout as well.
The corners are in, and Jay is bunting, and that rolls foul. We saw them do this in game 1. 1st inning, John Jay laying down a bunt.
And another option would be just let him swing the bat, try to pull the ball to the right side. It should accomplish the same thing. Now, Garrett Jones is trying to thwart that a bit by playing in. We saw Albert Pujols do that year after year. He'd play in on the 1st base side, so if a guy tries to pull the ball to the right side, the 1st baseman still may have a shot at getting that lead runner at third. More teams are doing that, but by playing in as Garrett Jones is, that opens up some room to hit the ball past him as well. So I still like the idea of taking a shot and letting John Jay pull the baseball.
Here's the 0-1 pitch, and Jay will drop down the bunt. Perfect. And they get him by a step. The sacrifice is good. Well, Jake Westbrook has had plenty of run support this year, tied for first in the league, and Eric Bedard a total of 6 runs, third fewest in the National League. Rich man, poor man.
A lot of times that evens out by the end of the year, but not always.
Yeah, you think about Mike Matheny and what he's trying to do here too. You've got a guy in Westbrook that's pitching so well. 1 run, 2 runs, that might be enough. That might be all he needs. And then you're really applying the pressure on Pittsburgh, 4 games below 500 again, to play catch up in a ball game.
And I think that's the bigger part of it. I think you're trying to kick them while they're down a bit and just make sure you get back out on top again. And the Cardinals have done a nice job for the most part of holding leads all season long, their starters and their relievers. So that first run, important.
Infield is drawn in for Matt Holliday. A check swing and a foul ball.
Cardinals have done a nice job of outscoring their opponents in the first 3 innings of ball games this year.
Big night for Holliday last night in game 2. 3 runs scored, pair of RBIs, pair of hits. And on Tuesday he had his 5th home run and has hit nearly 500 during this homestand. Outfield is deep. The infield is in. The 0-1 pitch to Matt Holliday. Here it comes. 0-2. Rick, they talk about Bedard with his fastball. He keeps you honest with a great curveball, but that fastball, not overly hard, but they say very sneaky.
88 miles an hour. It's not about the velocity only, location and the movement. And some guys throw a hard 88. The ball just jumps. And that's what you're talking about with Bedard.
0-2 pitch. And Holliday is carved up. Nasty stuff there from Bedard. Big strikeout early on in this game, and it's up to David Freese.
He showed that off-speed pitch early. You could see it coming. There's the grip. There's the curveball. You could see it coming, but that doesn't mean you can hit it. He really telegraphed that breaking pitch. You almost see it in the middle of his motion that, okay, curveball's coming. Right over the top, big breaker, but like Adam Wainwright, there are times where you know it's coming, you still can't hit that curveball.
David Freese. Runner at third. 2 down. Are you surprised that you do not see Carlos Beltran back in the lineup today after that career-high 7 RBIs last night?
Not surprised, because I think it was already planned to give him an off day today, and it makes it look a little suspicious with the kind of night he had last night. And he hit so well right-handed, too, against the lefty Bedard. You'd think it would be a natural place to have Beltran play, but you know, he hasn't really had a chance to have a lot of time off. When Alan Craig was out and Lance Berkman being out, Beltran needed to stay in the lineup even when he was struggling. And
Carlos
certainly didn't struggle yesterday.
No, not at all. He'll return to Houston tomorrow. Cardinals face the Astros. Freese hits it out to left, and this ball will hit the base of the wall. David on his way to second base, and he delivers yet again. Runners in scoring position and 2 down, and this guy is Mr. Clutch. 1-0 St. Louis.
24 RBIs for David Freese already. This is a pitch that's up, middle of the plate, a little bit in, and he gets on top of it. And if he was underneath it a little bit more, he might have had a home run. Good swing. And again, the production of David Freese one more time.
Alan Craig in his return to the big leagues, 2 for 4 in game 1 of this series. Had the right knee injury, had the surgery from the fracture in that knee. And he received a nice round of applause when he was introduced to the home folks. 2 down, runner at second, outfield straightaway and deep.
Cardinals playing for a run in the first. They end up getting it. They do give away an out to John Jay, and there's a school of thought, Earl Weaver would be the guy most predominant in that school of thought, that I only get 27 outs. I'm not giving you any. I'm not going to have any sacrifice bunting. But Mike Matheny has shown that that's going to be his style, play for the early run. And when the team's 16-8, you can't really quibble with it.
I'm not sure there's anybody in baseball that you want up at the plate with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position outside of David Freese. This guy has just been remarkable going back to last year's postseason, clearly, but it's carried over this year, and it's been a trademark of his Cardinal career that he's come through in the clutch. He's now hit in 18 of his 21 starts.
Maybe a passing of the baton when it comes to National League third baseman in terms of who are the best in the game. Chipper Jones, the Cardinals will see him for the last time this summer. Kind of been the perennial best third baseman in the league. David Wright, Zimmerman. There are
Scott
others.
Rowland.
Sandoval's been a decent player. But now you're going to have to start talking about David Freese in that category.
And with the publicity that he had in last year's World Series, you would think that the fan vote would be in the favor of a guy like David Freese for the All-Star game. More votes than he certainly wouldn't have received without that postseason. Craig hits it sharply and fair down into the left field corner. Freese will score. Craig on his way to second. They switch spots. 2-0 in the first, St. Louis. The third double in the first inning for the Cardinals.
Fun debate in Cardinal Nation. Who has the bigger upside, Alan Craig or David Freese? Well, this inning they both did pretty well. A couple of doubles with 2 outs. This one past a diving Alvarez and into the corner. David Freese changing places, as you said, with Alan Craig.
A 2-0 lead with 2 outs and a runner at second base. Mike Matheny has to love what he's seeing right now. Chance to win 5 of 6 in the homestand. You head to Houston. And Houston has played better than I think most thought. They're 11-14.
Agreed.
And then starting on Monday, lots of games coming up for really about the next month and a half, 2 months outside the Central Division. You get a better idea just how good St. Louis is.
Well, you end up getting a good idea just how good your team is when you face Bud Norris. Cardinals will do that. Second game in Houston, he'll pitch against Jaime Garcia.
And Shane Robinson start in right field today. Well, this guy just doesn't get cheated, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Not the biggest player you're ever going to see in a Cardinal uniform, but man, does he take a rip. That guy's got to go to the hospital if he caught that barehanded. No, he's got his glove. Thank goodness, right? That was a bullet.
And he was prepared. Brought his glove. Preparation meets opportunity. People call it luck, but he was prepared.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Shane, a guy that is a natural center fielder but can play all 3 outfield spots. Good speed. Made the club out of spring. Let's give him some credit after coming back from a vicious collision in the minor leagues and fracturing many bones in his face, the cheekbone. have a tendency to be awfully gun shy, those kind of plays, but he has not been at all. Coaching staff, Rick, has talked about that he's been almost, to the point where you don't want to say overly aggressive, but it's almost as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
He collided with Andrew Brown last year.
And it was a major collision, as you said, and I think there were a lot of folks worried just how long that comeback might take, not just the physical healing, but as you said, the kind of the courage that it takes to make some plays that you have to make as an outfielder up against the wall. And there could be something to that just mentally he's saying, well, I'm going to go overboard. I'm going to be even more reckless and show my lack of fear. And he's an interesting player to me because he's, on one hand, you look at him and you think, boy, you can knock the bat right out of his hand. And he just doesn't seem to be that aggressive at the plate. And then all of a sudden he jumps on a pitch and hits the ball hard somewhere, and you realize that you've underestimated it.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Time is called. Cardinals have jumped out to a 2-0 lead here in the home half of the first. RBIs by Freese and Craig.
I would bet he has been underestimated on every team he's ever played for, going back to being a little leaguer.
Because of his size.
Because of his size.
The 1-2 pitch and a strikeout of Robinson. Good start for St. Louis. 3 doubles and a 2-0 lead. Westbrook back to work. Have you found, Mr. Horton?
All kinds of interesting thing this week, and this is one of my favorites. Bernie Miklas, our friend at the Post-Dispatch, said that, okay, if you had Molina and Alan Craig in a double steal pool, you can collect your prize. Memories of Vince Coleman, Willie McGee, perhaps not. And that was one of the ones that tickled my fancy, and we'll show you more as we move on. That, of course, is a reference to the double steal that happened in this homestand with Yadier Molina leading the way and a guy just off the DL with a bad knee, and there's Coleman and McGee stealing second and third and making things happen on the base paths.
That's a strike on the outside corner to Neil Walker underway here in the second inning. Bernie had a nice article in the Post today and talking about the loss of Pujols, but yet this team and this franchise has turned the page and moved on. And a swing and a miss. Strikeout for Jake Westbrook.
Our Toyota keys to the game. Jake Westbrook has actually not fared very well in his career against the Pirates. 0-4 with a .495 earned run average. The walks at 12. He's really cut those down this year, and very little run support is part of the reason he's 0-4 against the Pirates. But this is really a new Jake Westbrook. Not really a new Jake Westbrook. He was this guy when he was in the American League early in his career. He was a big-time winner there. And I think he's found his mechanics. I think he's found his downhill plane a little bit more.
Pedro Alvarez hitting .242, 6 homers and 12 RBIs. Ground ball to short for Kyle, up with it. 2 away. Talk a little bit more about that downhill plane, that downward plane that a sinker bowler's got to have.
Well, the adjustment that he's really made during this offseason is that he's holding his hands higher in his motion, and that's resulting in his delivery being more on top and him actually throwing downhill to the plate instead of his top of his body spinning sideways. He's actually going downhill more to the plate, and that really helps when you stay on top. Your fingers stay on top of the ball, and the sinker has a downward movement instead of just moving down and away. It's actually moving straight down, and that's when you get the ground balls. Also, Dan, a better arm position to throw a slider when you're on top. If you get flat and come around the ball, your slider tends to be flat.
So there's the way that he starts, near the birds on the bat instead of at the belt.
Hands a little higher, on top, downhill. Geyer Miller explains it. One of his pet phrases is, if you think of the top of the body only, you need a lot more Ferris wheel and a lot less merry-go-round with the top of your body.
Makes a lot of sense.
Sure does.
Ooh, just missed outside. 3-1 here on Garrett Jones. Jake is one of the fastest workers, if not the fastest worker in baseball. I know his defense appreciates that.
And there are times last year, in my opinion, he worked too quickly.
I think he would say that too.
And not only quickly in terms of between pitches, but even in the pace of his motion. We look at last year, Jake Westbrook, not the year that he wanted. He had his good moments, but there's the hands a little bit lower. And if you think about the top part of your body spinning a little bit more and then everything getting flat, he's coming around the ball a little bit. And that makes everything flatter. There's the hands higher this year, and he's got a little bit more Ferris wheel at work, and the ball going down and inducing the ground balls. That's the difference with Jake Westbrook.
Clinton Barmas pops it up, shallow center, and the catch made by John Jay. Working the truck by Brian McCann to show you that from last year to this year. Good job as we're midway through 2. Get yours right now at Cardinals.com. It's also part of the dynamic deal of the week. Special place that is offered all-inclusive tickets for games in August. Also, if you head to the Cardinals Facebook page and look for fan jewelry, next 10 days you can go to the Facebook page, select your favorite postseason jewelry and moments, enter a chance to win tickets, money, and jewelry, championship jewelry. Here's Tyler Green, who's hitting .222 in 16 games this year. Green, Cruz, and Westbrook, 7, 8, and 9. Barmes can't come up with it. Long throw, and not in time as it scoots away at first. McHenry hustling to back that play up. We'll see if they give Barmes an air. He's had a tough series in the field.
Well, he sure has. He's just been in between on a lot of hops. That ball was hit semi-hard, but the real problem with it is it becomes a short hop for him. And Barmes can't come up with it and almost throws it away, almost compounds the error, which is what he was given by making another one on the throw.
Rick, there are a lot of teams that like Clint Barmes as a player, but they like him as a second baseman, not necessarily at shortstop. And being reunited with Clint Hurdle, who was ejected from the ball game last night, his manager, and also a chance to play short, brings him to Pittsburgh with a 2-year deal. But at second base, they've got Neil Walker, so Barmes will play short. They picked off Tyler Green. He'll hustle to second and safe. A stolen base for Green.
In this homestand, the first time Tyler Green in his career ever got thrown out stealing was on the double steal at the plate in the loss to Milwaukee, and he almost gets caught stealing here. But he's so fast, he's able to get to second base in a hurry, and no throwing lane for Garrett Jones. Should have been an advantage for Garrett Jones, being left-handed, to be able to throw on the inside part of the bag. Not a good throw from Jones. He had to rush it. There are times when you go on first movement, you're going to be safe anyway.
So a chance for Cruz. And he may have caught McHenry on the backswing. I think he did. And Tony Cruz knows a thing or two about that. I'm sure he doesn't feel very good about that because he knows what that's like.
Long swing, and McHenry's
Ouch.
moving in because it was a pitch down and in, so kind of just a perfect storm for him to get hit with the bat there. And Cruz obviously doesn't feel good about it. Really couldn't control it. It had to do with the pitch location, and McHenry really just trying to get in position to block it. Home plate umpire is giving him some time here, asking him what city he's in.
Catchers, some have gone to the hockey style mask that you see goalies wear. Others have stayed traditional, which is what you see with McHenry, to have the mask with the helmet. 0-1 pitch to Cruz. Pulled foul. 0-2.
Not really thinking about hitting the ball the other way right here. Part of that may have to do with the fact that the pitcher's on deck when you're in the 8th spot in the order. Maybe a little less obvious baseball fundamental, but typically runner at second base, nobody out. The idea is to hit the ball the other way to get the runner to third.
0-2 the count on Tony Cruz. Batting .083 so far this year. He lined into a double play last night. Mike Matheny calling the backup catcher spot the toughest decision he had to make as far as roster decisions coming out of spring. Brian Anderson hit nearly 500. Outfield is deep and straight away.
Mike has always liked Brian Anderson, and then you add the value of him being a left-handed batter. And you're trying to make a ball club, you're trying to design it in a way that you have flexibility. You have players that can mix and match at different positions. You have a balance of left and right, balance of speed and power. And it was hard to turn him down with the spring he had.
Here's the 0-2. And a punch out of Cruz. Bedard with his third strikeout. He is no stranger to strikeouts. Over in the American League, he averaged about 9 per 9 innings. So even though he's not overpowering. That's what he can do. Good curveball and paint.
And that was the sneaky fastball that you're talking about. He turns his back to the hitter, and maybe there's a difficulty even picking up the baseball until the last second because of the way he turns in his delivery. But that was just an 88-mile-an-hour fastball in the outside corner, and Cruz couldn't pull the trigger. Again, a good pitch for him to hit the ball the other way on.
Lots of room to the right side. Walker trying to keep Green close at second. And the first baseman, Jones, is off the bag and in. One ball, one strike. Now, you were a guy that pitched out of the bullpen. You were part of a starting rotation. You can understand the pride that a pitcher takes in swinging the bat.
Oh, yeah.
The competition.
It's been heated with these guys. They're jabbering about it today in the clubhouse, talking about Wainwright talking about a ball he hit up in Big Mac land, and other guys talking about how, yeah, he regularly does that, but he always does it at 4 o'clock. He doesn't do it at 7 o'clock. I mean, it's just the kind of banter that you get.
This may drop. It does. Green on his way to third. They will hold him up. It even got past McCutchen. McCutchen plays a very deep center field. They say that he plays that deep because of his speed. He can make up for it. But that bloop there, Rick, that's got to be caught with the pitcher up. He's got to make that play.
He looks a little disappointed out there in center field, and he also kind of looked like he was holding his knee, and we'll just hope that he's okay with that. But this ball hit off the end of the bat. Westbrook thinks he's out, but by tomorrow he's going to be bragging about it with the other pitchers. Did you see that knock I got with a runner in scoring position?
He'll be upset that Jose didn't send Green. Here's Furcal, who has picked up a double and a run scored back in the first inning.
Don't get greedy. Just be happy.
Just happy that you got the base hit. Runners at first and third. They'll hold the runner at first, and the third baseman is playing back, and that's Pedro Alvarez near the line. It's interesting how they're playing this situation. Early in the game, they play in with the infield. This situation, with a speedy runner, tough to turn to, like Furcal. And the other thing is the positioning of your third baseman, who now has moved closer to the line.
And it also appears that McCutchen's a step or two deeper in center field for Rafael Furcal. He has shown some pop from the right side, but a little bit of a unique defensive alignment here. The Pirates really have struggled defensively for some reason against the Cardinals this year. They've missed a lot of plays, made a lot of errors. And as you mentioned, Furcal's going to be a tough guy to double up. And you've got a lot of speed at third base in Tyler Green.
You know, you can look at sabermetrics as part of the puzzle, but not as the entire puzzle of where to play your defenders.
Well, what you have to make sure you take into consideration is other possibilities after you make those changes. There's some cause and effect with where you reposition your players. You can say, for example, well, let's not play the line at third base. Let's play off the line because more balls are hit that way. Okay, that's fine. But if you play there, I'm going to bunt more down the third base line, and I'm going to throw your stats right out the window. You're basing stats on what happened, but not what's going to happen if you make that move. So there's great value in studying the sabermetric things that we're used to, the new stats, and there's value in it, but you have to know how to use it properly.
Swing and a miss. Strikeout of Furcal. Strikeout number 4 for Eric Bedard. MLB.TV. Take us with you on Fox Sports Midwest wherever you are and you're a Cardinal fan. Watch us. MLB.TV on your favorite devices. HD quality. I was watching MLB.TV last night and saw the no-hitter by Jared Weaver. Go home, have a chance to check out some of those West Coast games and the late finishes that we have.
And I was watching the inside of my eyelids, so I was getting rest so I could be with you again today, Dan.
Well, that's good to know. There's John Jay, and strike one. He sacrificed first time up. Jared Weaver with mom and dad in the stands. Pitched at Long Beach State. Southern California kid. And he makes history last night. I always think of him being here 2006 with brother Jeff closing out Detroit, and Jared being part of the Cardinals celebration, which was pretty cool. You don't see that very often, guys from other teams or organizations celebrating with the team that won that's not yours.
But anybody who has a brother or a sister, for that matter, that's competed, you know, you get more nervous watching them play. You almost get more joy in what they do than what you do. So it certainly does make sense.
The late steal, and Westbrook on his way to second. That's a steal for Jake Westbrook. And, you know, we've seen the Cardinals do this by design, and you can look at it two different ways. One, is he trying to get in a rundown? Or two, is it truly a delayed steal, which is you take your secondary lead and then you go and you catch everybody napping?
Well, whatever it is, it's an embarrassing result for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
First ever, by the way, for Jake in his career.
You've allowed Yachty to steal a couple of bases, Alan Craig, and now Jake Westbrook.
Puts himself in scoring position. One ball and two strikes.
And that's the problem.
And this is one of the hottest hitters in baseball, and John Jay.
11-game hitting streak. Had a fantastic homestand.
Ricky was saying the other day that missing those 6 games, spraining his shoulder, you just go back to trying to be as solid as you can at the plate. You don't want to overdo it, hurt the shoulder, and you go back to mechanics. And it wasn't like he was struggling before, but boy, he hasn't missed a beat.
Timing's been outstanding.
Almost to the backstop, and it's 2-2. Bedard, see that body language, and he's working very slowly, and some of these infielders may be on the back of their heels. A 2-2 pitch. Here it comes.
Almost see the frustration on Bedard's face. He just does not seem comfortable, and he's seen other starting pitchers have bad outings. Guys that were on a roll have bad outings against his Cardinal team, and I know he was looking forward to this start. There's no question about that. He's a big leaguer, but he realizes he's facing a team that's offensively hitting on all cylinders.
And he walked him. Bases loaded for Holiday. First walk issued by Bedard. Green, Westbrook, and Jay aboard. Inning started with an error by their shortstop. Then they had Green picked off. Turns into a steal. Strikeout of Cruz. Westbrook, a bloop that should have been caught. A strikeout of Fracao, walk to Jay, and it adds up to the bases loaded here for Holiday. He had a steal for Westbrook as well.
A lot of bad things can happen right here for Eric Bedard facing Matt Holliday.
1-0 pitch to Matt. 2-0.
And a 2-0 count doesn't help.
Just look at the body language of Bedard, and that's updated with the strikeout earlier. 5 for 12 for Matt Holliday, but Bedard gets the ball back from McHenry and walks very slowly, shoulders slumped. All those things can happen to you, but you have to put it behind you. If you're Bedard, this might be your ball game right here. with a guy like Holiday.
Very well could be.
But I don't think he and McHenry have been on the same page at all.
Well, you also could read some frustration from McHenry as he called timeout. He kind of shaking his head like, what the heck is going on here? And so he didn't seem happy with it. And kind of a short conversation. I'm sure there was not a lot of love in that conversation. And, you know, it's part of the job of a catcher is to try to figure out how to get you better. Pitching coach has his eye on the starter Bedard as well. That's Ray Searage, and got guys in your camp trying to help you out.
Off speed pitch, 3-0.
2-0 curveball. I'm sure that's part of the question there. He wanted to throw a curveball, and the catcher McHenry is probably thinking 2-0 curveball, bases loaded. You sure about that?
Has to throw a strike here on 3-0 to Matt Holliday.
I would take this. School of thought that you maybe let him rip, but you don't want him to be over anxious. A pitcher's struggling, and the old school of thought is whatever you get 3-0, you're probably going to get 3-1 anyway.
He is set, and here comes a 3-1 pitch.
High strike. And it was.
Full count, runners off with a pitch. We'll do it again. Green reached on an error. Westbrook, the blue base hit into center. And a walk to John Jay. Bases loaded. 2 outs. Cardinals half of the second. And a 3-2 count on Matt Holliday. There they go. Holliday. Another good rip.
Last 2 pitches, he's tried to keep Matt Holliday from getting his arms extended. He does a nice job of powering the ball on pitches in the middle of the plate that are down. But Bedard's trying to work that inside corner to try to tie him up a bit to at least kind of minimize the damage. That's going to be a hard pitch for Matt to drive somewhere, but such a good hitter. He finds a way to get holes even when he's jammed.
The third 3-2 pitch to Matt Holliday. On its way. Popped up right side. Will it find the seats? Jones is over and runs out of room.
So that's 3 pitches he's worked that inside half. This one results in a broken bat, it looks like, for Matt Holliday.
We're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Day baseball here on Fox Sports Midwest, your home of the Cardinals and Blues. Dan McLaughlin, Rick Horton, Jim Hayes with you. Cardinals trying to pick up a sweep of Pittsburgh. And if they can, they'd go to 17-8. Only one other team with 17 wins in the National League, and that's the Dodgers. Washington leading in the National League East at 15-9. Already, not even 2 innings in the books for Bedard, and this is pitch number 56. Here it comes. Holliday back to Bedard, and look what I found. Takes the hit and RBIs away. Gets out of the jam, and it stays 2-zip St. Louis. MyKiaSt.Louis.com. And right now at Jack in the Box, you can try the new Chipotle Chicken Club Combo for just $4.99 plus tax. Beautiful sight at Busch Stadium and day baseball. Gorgeous day. A lot of folks playing hooky to come over and watch a little baseball, and why not? Big crowd.
No law against that.
Not at all.
Not in St. Louis, especially. Place to be.
We are asked all the time when we go on the road, as you get a look at Michael McHenry, how is the team able to do this? You put a product that has a payroll of over $100 million. They've won in 06. They won last year. Competitive every year. You lose Pujols, but yet the team comes back, and some believe maybe it's better even this year. You lose a Hall of Fame manager in Tony La Russa. Mike Matheny, no experience, steps in. Team continues to roll. But a lot of that is due to the fact that this place is packed night in and night out.
Yeah, and we talk about that, Dan. A lot of times we'll have people say, oh, you're just kind of pandering to your fans, etc. But there is a real partnership here that people do recognize around baseball, and we see that. And because we hear people talking about it, we go to other places. The partnership doesn't exist between the corporate St. Louis folks that help support the suites here and the fans that show up every day with a winner or a team that's not as good, and just all of the ways that the players get involved in St. Louis. I mean, there's a real partnership, and I think the ownership has understood that from day one when they bought this ball club.
Strikeout number 2 for Jake. You know, to me, good example would be when we were in Cincinnati the first time and the crowds were very low, as you get a look at that changeup from Jake Westbrook.
And that is called turning it over right there. The changeup, he's had basically threw that pitch with his pinky finger, the next finger, and his index finger, not his pointer and his thumb, and the ball just kind of rolls off those 3 fingers and dies down and away, and Jake Westbrook looks sharp.
Here's Eric Bedard, the 33-year-old from Ontario, Canada. You talked about the injuries that Bedard has gone through. He's had Tommy John. He's also had 2 surgeries on his labrum, so some felt it could be a risky signing to bring in a guy that's had shoulder issues. The Tommy John, anymore in baseball, that's not a big deal. It just seems like it's inevitable. At some point, a pitcher's going to have it. Now, position players get it too, but the labrum and that shoulder, that's a different story.
Much harder to recover from shoulder issues.
Westbrook hops off the mound and makes the play. Mentioned that Jake has lost weight, 20, 25 pounds in the offseason, and he told me the other day that losing the weight wasn't a big deal with what he's doing on the mound. It was more just psyche. He feels better about himself, feels healthy, changed his diet in the offseason.
And you can't say that it's unrelated fully, but really the mechanics is probably the bigger deal for him. But certainly I think it's helped him agility-wise when it comes to fielding his position.
Just saw that.
We just saw that. And, hey, he has a stolen base, too. How about that?
A byproduct of bringing the hands up, as you talked about, getting on top of the ball and the downhill angle. But also they felt right there, by doing that, he's not tipping his pitches, and in particular his breaking ball.
Well, if you were changing the mechanics because of tipping pitches question, but resulted in kind of him having a much better pacing with his delivery, I think that's even more important than the tipping part.
The first base hit allowed by Jake Westbrook here in the 3rd, and that's Tabata. He's enjoyed Cardinals pitching in his young career. He's really played well against St. Louis. Carsoup.com/Cardinals if you'd like to email us here in the booth. So base hit for Tabata, who's 1 for 2.
The downhill plane with Westbrook, the other thing that you think about to show just how important that is when the pitching was so dominant in the 60s, what did they do to correct that? They moved the mound lower, just so players would have a flatter, pitchers would have a flatter release point which would help hitters and make it harder for pitchers to get the ball to sink and move and go downhill. So you could just see the result in that and how it really changed the game in the 60s.
A base hit by Presley, and here come the Pirates, second time through this lineup. Pair of base hits with 2 down, and it brings in McCutchen. When you look at this lineup from Jake Westbrook's perspective, this is the guy that can't beat you, right? I mean, McCutchen's the guy.
Absolutely. And Walker may be in that boat most of the time that you're going to face the Pirates. He had a rough start, 1 for 21 to start the season. But Walker and McCutchen, you get through those two guys, and you just don't want to make mistakes to everybody else. But these guys can hit good pitches as well as mistakes.
2 on, 2 outs, and a curveball and a strike. McCutchen grounded out to second, first time up. Little tapper, and off the mound, Westbrook makes the play. The Pirates strand 2. David Freese leads it off when we come back. Season this afternoon at FoxSportsMidwest.com. Cardinals beat writer for the website is BJ Rains, and it's our Jack in the Box Ask the Expert. Here's David Freese, and he is teamed up this year with Matt Holliday. It's called Homers for Health to benefit the kids at Cardinal Glennon. And in talking with David and Matt yesterday, Rick, they said it's been unbelievable the response that they have gotten, because fans, all they have to do, they can make a pledge of 50 cents. And what happens is they're trying to get, for every Cardinal home run, not just these two guys, but every Cardinal home run, $3,000 would be donated to such a worthwhile cause, which is helping those kids there. And the reason that they did this is that they decided, because Matt is living in the St. Louis area in the off season, he and his wife would go to the Children's Hospital. They teamed up with David Freese, who is living in town as well. And they said it's just such an emotional venture for those two to go in and have a chance to help those kids and maybe put a smile on some faces, but why not raise a little bit of money for that too? And so it's called Homers for Health at Cardinal Glennon. We have a website that you can donate to. Here's a ground ball that's hit to third. Low throw, and Freese is retired. That's great to see that Matt is living here full time. We know David is a St. Louisan, so much of their time was spent visiting with those kids at the hospital.
And I love their connection to St. Louis. Of course, most players are connected for 7 months out of a year, and you know, they been traveling from all over the country to get to this place to be a Cardinal, and sometimes they go back to where they originally grew up, actually other countries, etc. But to have these guys committed to the St. Louis area 12 months a year, to me, I kind of miss players doing that. I haven't had a lot of that in the last 10 or 15 years.
And a strike at the knees to Alan Craig. Alan Craig said his profile went on the rise after last year's postseason. He lives in the offseason in California. He said, you wouldn't believe how many people were asking me to come speak or hold a clinic. His high school retired his baseball number.
He also got married.
Got married in the offseason.
So he had to run all those requests by somebody else for the first time in his life.
The boss. As you and I know.
And many others know.
1 ball and 2 strikes. With David Peacock, who is here at the ball game, the former president of Anheuser-Busch, has stayed heavily involved in charities around town, and one of those is with Matt and David as Craig hits it down the left field line, and that ball is foul. But we talked to David. He was up here in the booth before the first pitch today, and he said those two guys, it's not just putting their names on it. He said they've just been remarkable in being very aggressive and getting the word out about homers for health, and that was just foul off the bat of Craig.
David's a little bit more outgoing, I would say, than Matt Holliday or Alan Craig in terms of both of those guys are really friendly in the clubhouse with their teammates. But in terms of some of the demands that players get to be up front and to be speaking at events, etc., you know, Alan, one of the 2 Cardinal graduates from college on this team, but he's really a sharp guy, but not a real verbal guy. And so sometimes players are forced to be out of their comfort zone, and that's part of what the fame brings them.
And a lot of times
you get stretched.
Yeah, guys, they do these kind of things, and you hear about it a month or 2 later because they don't want anybody to know what they're doing, and they do it for the right reasons, which is to put a smile on somebody's face. The 2-2. How was Whitey with all the requests and demands outside of baseball with guys that played in that era here in St. Louis?
Well, our deal 20, 30 years ago was you have 2 things to do. Do them the first week of the season, then think about baseball for the next 6 months, and do all those appearances in the offseason. And many of the players lived in St. Louis in the offseason and made that practical.
Strikeout of Alan Craig. Let's bring in Jim Hayes. And Jim, we're talking about what happens in the offseason. Well, it's been a busy one in season and off season for Shane Robinson.
Yeah, well, Shane's been wearing out pitchers. Right now he's getting worn down himself. His wife Jessica just gave birth to their first child, a baby girl, Tinley. Since then, that was last Thursday. Since then, they've been doing what parents do, getting up in the middle of the night to tend to the newborn. And Shane says this road trip for the Cardinals will be tough to be away from Tinley, but guys, at least he'll catch up on his sleep.
You hope. And I think that would be the case as Shane hits one foul and out of play. And Jim, as anybody that follows Cardinal baseball knows, you are a dad, because we do hear about young Tyler, your son, an awful lot. So maybe you can give Shane a few pointers on what to do here.
Well, in my house, when my wife says, you go take care of Tyler, I get up and I take care of Tyler. Make the wife happy. That's my advice.
That is the advice that Shane needs to take. We agree. There's a swing and a miss. But it does put in perspective. I think sometimes we forget these guys are human beings. You know, you see them 3 hours at night. Baseball players, and as Tony would always say, they're men, not machines.
Absolutely right.
1-2 pitch.
Of course, have more resources and more assets to be able to handle some of life's demands that everybody has, but they still have those demands. And they have a few others to go along with that. Sometimes they don't have the privacy they'd like to have, especially the guys that aren't quite as maybe gregarious as others. but it comes with the territory.
The 2-2 pitch to Shane Robinson. On the outside corner, strikeout. And that's number 6 for Eric Bedard. We're back with more in a moment.
Tourism. Go to visitmo.com. Start planning your next Missouri getaway. Welcome to the Lake of the Ozarks, spanning over 54,000 acres, 1,100 miles of shoreline. Beautiful area, plenty of golf courses. Lake of the Ozarks is just a short 2.5-hour drive from right here at Busch Stadium, and that allows for an affordable getaway that can fit any family's budget. VisitMo.com. 2-0 St. Louis, top of the 4th inning. Jake Westbrook back to work. He will face Walker, Alvarez, and Jones. He has allowed just 2 Pirates hits through 3 innings. Walker struck out in the 2nd. Beautiful day here at Busch Stadium. Cardinals trying to sweep the Pirates here this afternoon for the first time in 2012 to sweep any series. They've come close a number of times, but big win here last night. The bats came out. 17 hits, 12 runs for St. Louis. They won game 2, 12-3.
And that pitch is taken high by Neil Walker, and we're underway here in the 4th. I told this story before, and I've heard fans get a kick out of it, but Neil Walker sought out Bill Mazeroski, the hero of World Series for the Pirates, and that's slicing back towards Holiday. Fires it back in. That's one of his little deals he likes to do when he makes a catch, is to fire back in. But he went and sought out a Hall of Famer who was noted for his defense, Bill Mazeroski, and to walk-off homer to win the World Series for Pittsburgh. And Mazeroski said if Walker didn't come to him at that particular time, and I believe it was 2 spring trainings ago, he was done going to spring training. He said, why am I going? Guys aren't seeking me out for help. I'm just standing around, and I've got a lot to offer, but if they don't want to have it, I don't need to be here. Little bloop. Watch out. And a sliding attempt made by Holiday, but it drops in for a base hit for Pedro Alvarez. Alvarez the base hit, and he is 1 for 2, and this is the lowest ERA in the major leagues this season. Steven Strasburg 1.13 in his 5 starts, and he really had a rough spring. Then you have Joe Saunders of Arizona. We'll see him next week, and lo and behold, there's righty Jake Westbrook.
Just 25 games into the season. If you'd have asked who those top 3 would be, you might have said Strasburg, but you probably wouldn't have said Westbrook.
I agree with that. But it really started with day 1 for Jake Westbrook in spring training. And as you mentioned, a lot of attention was turned toward how he looked physically, but the big difference, the hands and the delivery.
And then the next thing you've got to do if you're Derek Lilliquist and Dyer Miller and really all the pitching staff throughout the organization, including some of the minor league coaches. There's a lot of communication back and forth, and the folks that do the video here. Get a body of work right now about what Jake Westbrook is doing. Put all those tapes together, find out his delivery, find out his feel, ask him some questions about it to make sure you're getting some of what's going on in his head about why he thinks he's doing well, and make that your base point.
Garrett Jones pops it up left side. Freeze will give it a look, and it's out of play.
Jake had a base point at one point as an American leaguer. He won 14 games with Cleveland in 2004, then 15 the next 2 seasons. So he was a solid starter, 200+ innings, successful American League starter. And then you're always trying to regain that form. Well, the form he has right now is as good as it gets for Jake Westbrook. So the idea is to remember it, repeat it, and when you have your downtime, which he will, figure out a way to come back to this.
Hold the runner at first. Outfield shading just a bit to the opposite way. Here's a grounder. Stepping on the bag, Craig fires to second, wide and safe. There's some belief that with that play you go to second for the forced play and then the turn, but looked like he was going to land right on the bag, and this is a throw that's a little too wide.
I think you get the out first, and I think Craig did the right thing. It's a much harder play for a right-handed first baseman. The ball is right over the bag. You always got to do is just land. Now it's the tough throw across the runner headed from first to second, and he just threw it wide. Didn't want to hit him in the back, but ended up throwing a little sailor for call, not in time.
One ball, no strikes on Clint Barmes. Replaces Ronnie Cedeno. Pirates had him last year, and Cedeno really played well against St. Louis. But against the rest of the league at times, not so well, so that's why you see Barmes. Ray Vincent in the house. Where's Tony? Ray Vincent, proud sponsor of Cardinals baseball here on Fox Sports Midwest. Off the glove of Freeze and a fair ball. A run will score. And Barmes picks up the RBI. Cuts the lead in half, 2-1.
David Freeze does everything he can to try to keep this ball in the infield. He knows he's going to save a run if he can just knock it down, and then when he doesn't get it, there's the sink, there's the ground ball. That's what he wanted. Just wasn't right at Freeze. It was down the line, so he dives, and once it's past him, he gets up quickly, and he still wants to save that run right off the end of his glove and then off the umpire, and he thinks, well, maybe I can track this down and still keep that run from scoring. So I appreciate that effort of David Freeze. Does not go unnoticed by pitchers.
McHenry takes a ball on the outside corner. One ball, one strike with 2 outs and a runner at second. 8th place hitter McHenry. Cardinals picked up a terrific outing last night by Lance Lynn. First National League pitcher to go to 5-0. Boy, was he good. Pitching with a big lead, a lot of run support, but he did his job.
Very pleased with what he was able to do yesterday. We noticed a couple of things in his start. He is experimenting with using kind of a split changeup grip, which he started working on about a year or so ago. He also confirmed what we noticed, Dan, that his arm angle was down a bit the first couple of innings, and he noticed it, made an adjustment, and got back on top a little more. And he said he was kind of pulling off just a tad. But really, his mechanics have just been so sound from day one.
That is amazing, because I'm sure it's guys that are in the video room saying, wait a minute, is that dropped a little? Take a look at this. And in between innings, Lance Lynn himself can do that.
We also noticed him throw a first pitch of an inning where he came out and threw so far over the top. I mean, almost straight downhill. And I said, it almost looked like you were making an over adjustment to make sure you got up. And he said it was. He just wanted to make sure he got back in the right arm spot. Maybe just a hair. That's all it is, but it makes a difference.
Strikeout on that play, and the Pirates get on the board. It's 2-1. Here, Tony La Russa, his retirement figurine is Friday, May 11th, presented by Ameren, Missouri. And that is the night that the Cardinals officially retire number 10. It'll be just the 12th number retired in franchise history. And there are a limited number of seats available for that night at Cardinals.com. Cardinals.com. And it should be a very special night. Our understanding is it's a who's who of Hall of Famers and dignitaries that'll be in town. Rickey Henderson, possibly Tom Seaver, Carlton Fisk, many of the former Cardinal players that he managed. So, very special night, and we are your home of the Cardinals, Fox Sports Midwest, and in conjunction with the Cardinals, the start time, that first pitch will be pushed back briefly as McLeod takes over in center field. That change made just moments ago by Clint Hurdle, but really a special night. We'll carry that ceremony for you, and we're looking forward to it. Here's Tyler Green, and Rick, I think you're right. You noticed that McCutchen looked to be very slow on that ball that he came in on and hurt going back to his position.
Couldn't tell whether he was concerned about something in a leg or whether he just didn't feel well, but he just certainly didn't seem his normal self. He running the ball out that he hit on the ground, but he just seemed a little off today. So McLeod takes over in center field.
And last night it was the first night for McCutchen to have a game off. He did not start. First time this year. So McLeod is back out there as he made the start in game 2. 0-2 the count on Tyler Green, and he strikes out. That's strikeout number 7, and Bedard has struck out 3 in a row. The chairman of the St. Louis Cardinals and CEO is Bill DeWitt. His thoughts on this.
Fresh in the fans' minds, and to recognize him as soon as possible was the appropriate thing to do after thinking about it and not really waiting until maybe he gets into the Hall of Fame. So that's kind of what went into it. We wanted to honor him in a special way and as he deserves as soon as possible.
So I know a lot of fans were wondering, well, why not wait till he officially goes in the Hall of Fame? And there's the explanation from Bill DeWitt, chairman, CEO of the club. Let's do it now. And that was a conversation I had with Mr. DeWitt. And one of the things that he pointed out is you get a look at Cruz is that the era of baseball that Tony put together, those 16 years, unmatched in many ways. A couple of the championships, all the division titles, and as Mr. DeWitt would point out later in that interview, he said, even when our team was not as successful as 06 and 2011, unbelievable performances individually, whether it be McGuire, Pujols, pitching of Adam Wainwright, Carpenter. But he really felt that, hey, this is something that we want to do special to get back to Tony La Russa, and it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to have his number retired. But why wait until the 5 years are up and going into the Hall of Fame, whatever the case may be? Let's do it now.
One of the things that Tony has done for this organization is he has set the bar of excellence high. Now, that's a bar that had already been high with managers and teams from the 40s and the 60s and the 80s. But he set that bar of excellence, very high expectations for his players, for his coaches, for himself. And I think we're still seeing some holdover from that. I mean, we say, okay, it's a full new era, but there's a lot of players on this Cardinal team that still have the influence of Tony La Russa in the back of their mind.
That's 8 strikeouts for Bedard. We'll remind you, Fox Sports is proud to support Boys and Girls Club of America, a place where youth can reach their full potential. Find out more at greatfutures.org/Fox Sports. You saw McGuire there, Rick, and to me, that was the beginning of it all. You know, in '96, Tony's first year, they were close. One win away from heading to the World Series to face the Yankees against the Braves. They lost, and they were up 3-1 in that series. But in '97, 2-month run of Big Mac changed it all. He re-signs, comes back to St. Louis, and that's when you saw the 3 million fans coming through the turnstiles. And if they don't get him, and it's Tony's relationship, and at that time Walt Jocketty, to bring him to St. Louis, if they don't get him, you may not see 3 million fans. And if you don't have 3 million fans, the trades to get Kyle, Veers, sign Vigna, you know, those kind of things don't happen. And give the ownership credit. They got the money in, and they put it back in the product.
Part of the partnership we talked about early on. Fans, business partnership, owners, players, development.
Bedard strikes out the side, and that's 9 Ks in 4 innings. It's 2-1 St. Louis. Bernie Federko and the rest of the gang out in L.A. And the Blues are down by 2 games in that series. And we've got the post-game show for you after every playoff game. Full postseason coverage on your home of the Blues. Fox Sports Midwest. Missouri Lottery Blues Live coming up later tonight in game number 3.
John Kelly has tweeted that Pietrangelo will play in game 3 tonight. Looking forward to that.
That's
and
great.
We've got some more Twitter for you. We're talking about some of my favorite tweets of the week, and this one was yesterday. Mike DiGiovanna is the beat writer out in Los Angeles for the Dodgers, actually, and he tweeted yesterday that former Cardinal teammate Jim Edmonds was hanging out with Albert Pujols. See the kind of information you can get in the social media.
Twitter.com/FS Midwest.
Many players are on Twitter. Many Cardinal minor league players are on Twitter, and it gives you a chance to know a little bit more about them and what kind of they're interested in.
A strike on Eric Bedard. Speaking of the minor leagues, it was Oscar Taveras, who was a non-drafted free agent out of the Dominican in 08, and what a first month he put together. 8th in all of minor league baseball home runs. He had 21 RBIs, and he was the minor league player of the month for the Cardinals. He's only 19, and he did that damage at AA Springfield.
And they thought that might be a stretch for him. They weren't sure whether he was ready to be at the AA level. And they said, let's just find out what kind of player he's going to be. We'll put him up, he and Colton Wong both, at a higher level and just see what they can do.
Taveras is a guy that can play the outfield. One ball and 2 strikes. Bedard pops it up. Coming in, Freese, and makes the catch. Nice play by David Freese. Up against the rail.
And what do trainers do? Trainers take care of players, even guys on the other team. David Freese comes over, runs out of room, up against the rail, and what 2 guys come to the rescue? Both the trainers hop up to the top step. There's another look. David kind of hits his side as he slams in. Notice the players weren't there to catch him, but the trainers were. It's in their blood.
Jose Tabata, 1 for 2, lined out to right, and a single. Momentarily, we'll get an update on Lance Berkman. Speaking of outfielders, how he is progressing. That sore calf and trying to get back in the lineup. The addition of Alan Craig, Eric Komatsu was let go. Rule 5 pickup, so his future uncertain at this point.
Saw him in the Cardinal clubhouse today. It's just part of the human part of this game that we were talking about earlier. There's a guy saying his goodbyes, packing his bags and his equipment, and hoping that he's going to get a big league job somewhere, but his future is uncertain right now.
There's a base hit into right center. Let's check in with Jim Hayes. And Jim, what do we know right now about Lance Berkman? We'll start with him.
Well, we know that he's eligible to come off the DL tomorrow in Houston. He's got the strained left calf. He has been taking BP, but he's yet to run at full speed. Mike Matheny saying Lance will be with the team on the road trip, and they'll keep an eye on him for now. Berkman's return still up in the air.
And the Cardinals would love to get him back, especially against his former team. He had tremendous numbers. Berkman did last year against Houston, and chance for Lance to go back home. And Berkman, so taking BP, but as Jim said, running is the issue at this point with Berkman. First baseman, can also play the outfield. Played it quite well at times last year. And Jim, we were just talking about Eric Komatsu. So as Rick said, it's the human element of this game. He's packing up his stuff. He doesn't know about his future and where he may go.
It looked kind of sad packing up his bags. He wanted to stay caught up in a numbers game. Mike Matheny saying as he goes through the waiver process, Mike feels like someone's going to snatch him up. And Eric told me before the game, this is a very difficult thing to sit through the waiver process and have absolutely no idea what his future holds. He said he feels like he's in limbo right now, and he is.
So he has to clear those waivers, and then if a team picks him up, Rick, technically he stays as a Rule 5 pickup. So if a major league team would pick him up, he stays with that team. If he clears waivers, then the Cardinals could try to make a trade to keep him. Now, John Mozeliak and Mike Matheny talking the other day that Adron Chambers has looked good down in the minor leagues. And I'm sure the Cardinals would love to have him stay, but they'd love to have him stay with at-bats and experience in the minor leagues.
Well, he'd have to be picked up by a team that really has lost an outfielder due to injury, and they don't have a plan B yet at the AAA level, and they're willing to take a chance on Komatsu. I think the odds are that he's going to end up back with the Washington Nationals.
Outfield is shallow for Presley. 1 ball, 1 strike. There goes the runner. It's a ground ball to the right side. Green ranging to his left and makes the play. 2 outs. And instead of McCutchen, now you have Nate McLouth. McCutchen started the game, left. We don't know why, and so you get the Michigan native Nate McLouth. I was telling you the other day that Nate speaks Spanish. Younger brother is fluent in Spanish, and he took classes and watched Spanish television in the minor leagues to learn because he was playing with so many Latin players. And you did that too.
Absolutely. Taught a couple of younger players from the Dominican how to speak English and learned some Spanish along the way.
Ball scoots away, and Tabata will stay put at third.
The ball boy almost picked that ball up as the ball got away and had to be kind of admonished not to, because that ball was in play, and then opportunity perhaps for that run to score from second base.
Tabata, by the way, with his 2 hits, has reached safely in 18 games against the Cardinals. And here at Busch, he's been great.
Tabata thinking about scoring.
Tying run is at second base. We're in the top of the 5th. The 2-0 pitch. Excuse me, at third base. 2-1 the count with 2 down. It's been a rough go for Nate McLouth, hitting just 148. And those are his numbers with 2 outs and runners in scoring position.
I was surprised to find out this year that the Cardinal manager speaks Spanish fluently.
As was I.
Known him for years and did not know that.
Carlos Beltran could not speak English when he was drafted and has made it a passion of his in the offseason in Puerto Rico to teach some of the highly talented kids out of Puerto Rico not only about the game of baseball, but also in his baseball academy they speak English. Swing and a miss. It's a strikeout for Westbrook, and the tying run is stranded down at third. Top of the lineup coming up. Bowl Saturday, June 16th. Royals will be in town. 25,000 fans ages 16 and older get that Purina Pet Bowl that you see right there. And there's a pitch taken low and inside by Rafael Furcal. Furcal with a run scored back in the first. Had a double and also struck out.
Bedard has been a hard guy to figure out here this afternoon. The punch outs that are piling up for him is kind of on the plus side. He's been able to get out of some jams. He did give up some hits early on, and he's kind of had an almost blasé mound presence. And even when he's at the plate, he kind of just seems kind of blasé, and yet he's managing to keep his team in the game. It was a time where you talked about, Dan, his infielders being on their heels and him kind of working slowly and just, I mean, almost having a mound presence of being disinterested. Maybe that's too strong a word, but you can't argue with the success, the fact that he's been able to keep his team in the game and all the punch outs.
At some point, you would have to think, and he's been around a pretty good amount in the major leagues, that somebody would say to him, let's speed this thing up, man.
Yeah, and then at some point he'd say, hey, I got 9 punch outs. Right?
I'd still say, let's speed this thing up.
And he'd still say, I got 9 punch outs, you do it.
I know it.
It's just the reality, though.
Lull you to sleep.
Can you do both?
Please.
Right.
3-2 the count on Furcal. Esther Watkins, Belinda Worthy, and Cindy Lewis are attending today's game, and they brought Pat Landers to her first ever Cardinals game this afternoon.
John Tudor had a disinterested mound presence, but it didn't mean he wasn't focused.
6 in a row for Bedard, 10 in this game. Strikeouts. UFC returns to Fox. Explosive heavyweight bout. And that's UFC night on Fox Saturday at 7.
I think Tudor's philosophy, Dan, and I don't know that he ever articulated it that clearly, but I think his presence was, I want to be boring, and I want you to be bored, and I want you to be out. And it just, instead of being really kind of passionate on the mound, he's certainly a passionate guy. He was much more relaxed and calm when he went about his trade.
Safe to say that he was a curmudgeon at times.
That's a very good word. Very good word.
He could flat out pitch.
A nice word. Is that a big word for grouch?
Yeah.
Then yes.
I guess a politically correct way of saying you're a grouch.
A lovable grouch, but yes.
1 ball and 2 strikes. He was down at fantasy camp this year, and the campers got a kick out of seeing him.
I'll never forget him being told he's got to take his chain off during a pennant race, and Tommy was sort of calling down to the bullpen, asking me to come back to the dugout to talk him into doing what Doug Harvey was telling him to do. He said, John won't listen to me. Would you come down? I said, he's not going to listen to me either. Trust me. They wanted him to take his chain off. Doug Harvey said, you're going to be thrown out of the game if you don't take it off. And he said, then throw me out.
And what happened?
And Tommy said, John, this is the playoff. I mean, this is a pennant race. You got to take it off. He said, I'm not taking it off. My mom gave me this cross. I'm not taking it off. So they called me down in the bullpen and said, would you come down here and talk to him? And I said, it's not going to help. And what Tudor did is he came in and he pretended to take it off, but he tied dental floss to the ends of the chain, and so that it was actually still wearing it. You just couldn't see it.
John Jay strikes out. What is going on here? That's now 7 in a row, and 11 in this game.
This is getting up to epic proportions here. 7 strikeouts in a row.
And it's a lot of check swings and looking.
Different
guys
pitches,
not really arguing.
No, it's curveballs and fastballs both. Struck out Holiday in the first inning. It's pretty unbelievable. 7 in a row.
Two outs and nobody on, and here's Matt Holliday. Holliday with a base hit. Waited on that pitch in his first hit of the afternoon. A 2-out base hit, and it brings in Freese.
swinging the bat like a guy that didn't want to be number 8. Swinging at that first pitch. Breaking ball up in the zone, playing Holiday to pull. Walker shading him to the left side. There's a big hole on the right side, and Holiday finds it.
It's the first Cardinal hit since back in the second inning, and that bloop base hit by Westbrook. 5 hits aside and a 2-1 St. Louis lead. I mentioned it at the time, but it has turned out to be a huge play in this game, and that was Bedard with the bases loaded.
Right.
And he went to a full count on Matt Holliday back in the second inning, and Holliday hit one back to him. Bedard stuck the glove out. Look what I found, and it saved a couple of runs. He was on the ropes.
Record, by the way, Dan, for strikeouts in a row. Tom Seaver in 1970 struck out 10 in a row.
1 ball, 1 strike.
He threw a little harder than Bedard.
Oh, did he? Talk about driving that lower half and the knee that would touch the dirt of the mound. And you being a New York native and a guy that grew up cheering for the Mets, I'm sure you had a chance to see Tom Seaver.
Oh, you bet. He just loved watching him pitch. He was a competitor. He's really the poster boy for one of the 2 styles of pitching, both that are still taught. And you'll get arguments among pitching coaches. There's the drop and drive, and there's the tall and fall. He was the drop and drive guy. At a low center of gravity, would kind of push off the rubber to the plate, and most pitchers now are more not pushing off the rubber, but just kind of falling forward to make sure you stay on top. He had such great lower body strength, he could drive to the plate and still get his arm on top.
2-2. Talking with Mark McGuire the other day about facing Nolan Ryan, and he said the intimidation was there because he did throw hard. He said, but what was really intimidating was the fact with every pitch you heard the man scream or grunt, and you saw what he did to Robin Ventura. He said he didn't want to mess with this guy.
No. And he'd grunt on his changeup too, which I thought was cheating. Because you'd swing at the grunt and the ball wasn't there yet. Not that he would bother throwing a changeup to a pitcher, but he had a pretty decent changeup at the end of his career. Go along with overpowering curveball and fastball. He would make some mistakes, however. I hit one of those. Turned one of those 94-mile-an-hour heaters right back up the box. Is the way I remember it.
And was that really truly the way it was done?
Well, it was about a 17 hopper, but up the middle, AstroTurf hit, but it's written on a baseball right now in my house.
Was that your first ever?
First major league hit off.
Is that right?
Yes. Didn't have a lot of them.
Now that is pretty cool.
You just hope it's against somebody that people have heard of.
Sure.
First guy ever got out was a pitcher that nobody remembers, so it doesn't really matter.
Allen Craig has an RBI double, 1 for 2. Double back in the first, and he struck out in the third. Bedard has struck out 11 today. Bedard was upset with the home plate umpire, so it looks like they're just having a meeting to maybe calm him down a little bit. He was not happy. That last pitch to David Freese.
So this is a group counseling session right now for Eric Bedard, who's trying to get over it. Again, the interesting presence, interesting kind of disinterest almost on his face. Throwing the ball into his glove, now talking to an umpire about it. Here comes the smile. So he's just kind of an interesting presence. Did not think that pitch was out of the strike zone. Thought he should have had another strikeout. And that could be a big pitch for him. He better get over it.
A 2-out base hit by Matt Holliday. Walk by Freese. So 2 down and a chance for Alan Craig. Talked a lot about how Alan Craig holds the bat, where the top of the bat starts at the pitcher and then comes back, more of a trigger mechanism for him. You wondered if he was going to be able to handle those inside pitches and fastballs, but there's been no problems with those. Here's a high fly ball into right. This should do it. The Cardinals will strand 2. And after 5, it's a 2-1 lead for St. Louis. In Houston, it's our Budweiser What's on Tap. And that game will be seen right here on Fox Sports Midwest. Rick and Al will have the weekend call for you. Cards and Astros. Jeff Luhnow and the Astros, the new general manager. And Jeff, you know, some people will say, well, what kind of job did he do as the guy producing players here? And proof is in the pudding. There was a lot of players that have contributed to this run of having championship baseball. Lance Lynn, one of his draft choices. Alan Craig is one of his draft choices. Shane Robinson, who's in right field. Talk about Brett Wallace and the trade that brought Matt Holliday. Those were his players that he drafted.
Yeah, you have to think about the players you gave up because they were good enough chips too.
So one of the main reasons Houston decided to turn the reins over to Jeff was not so much of what you could do for me right now as far as winning games this season, but what do you do as far as drafting players? And they have the #1 overall pick, and there's not a foregone conclusion at this point that there's a Steven Strasburg or a Bryce Harper, but there are a couple of players, depending on what you read or the people you talk to, that's being debated. Cardinals, by the way, because of some of the losses they've had in free agency, this is a very big year for St. Louis. New scouting director, who's a St. Louis guy, but a number of picks in the first 45 to 50. I believe it's 5 or 6. And that's how you win. You've got to restock and retool.
Every year when the draft happens in June, you pick 30, 40 guys, and nobody really knows who they are, and you won't know about them again until 3 or 4 years, but they're really important.
Absolutely.
Because they're guys that you will know about down the road and become the future of your organization, and they're just names at one point, but it's part of the job of the front office is to continue to restock the minor leagues and develop quality big league player.
Base hit into center field for Neil Walker. Brings in Alvarez.
Check out the location of this pitch, right down central.
Bedard at 104. Jake Westbrook only at 73. No activity for the Pirates in their bullpen. Yankees spent a ton of money, but we've talked about it before, and the great run that they had those championship years was with players that were developed in their system, from Jeter, Bernie Williams, Posada, great closer Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettitte, all coming through their system.
Look forward to that Astros series. The Cardinals will also be playing Arizona on this road trip. The Astros, you mentioned earlier, Dan, having a better season than one might have thought. They are 3 games under 500, but they've won their last 3 games, and their pitching's been decent. And they're going to have to restock their team to be an American League ball club, too, which may change the way you draft a bit. You might take a player that you can't really see having a position, but you see that he can flat out hit. Think maybe this guy's got a future as being a first baseman, DH.
That's what most people talked about with Brett Wallace at the time, that he's out of position. You know, some people felt that he would not be able to play third base, and after he was traded a couple of times, Oakland, Toronto, winds up in Houston. He was playing first base last year, but Jeff Luhnow, when he came in, said, no, I want to see what he can do at third base. So he actually did not make the club out of spring and is playing at third base. 2-1 to count.
Yeah, and a dangerous pitch right here for Alvarez. He's swung the bat much better the last couple of weeks, and he has the power stroke. We've already seen it in this series. Pirates just down a run here. Westbrook has made a bad pitch already this inning. He needs to make a good one here.
2-2.
Some stirring in the Cardinal bullpen. Nobody throwing, but there are a bunch of guys stretching and moving about, knowing that it's about that time to get ready in a hurry if Westbrook fails here in the 6th inning. I believe they'll send Neil Walker here. Alvarez does strike out quite a bit, but with Yadier Molina behind the plate, I don't send him, but I think they'll send him.
2 finals in baseball already done, and Cincinnati wins over Chicago 4-3. Phillies over Atlanta 4-0. Little bigger lead over at first for Neil Walker. He is leaning. 3-2. There he goes. Hit high in the air out to deep center. Jay looks up and it's gone. It's a home run. And just like that, one swing of the bat, the Pirates have their first lead of the afternoon. Pedro Alvarez, his 7th home run and his 2nd in this series.
Just had a sense that that's a dangerous at bat in this game. Alvarez has shown some pop, and this ball, Dan, carries tremendously to center field. Almost gets in on him a little bit, or I guess it does go off to the end of the bat, but didn't sound like and look like he really crushed that ball. John Jay kind of started moving towards it, then kept going, and then he just started sprinting to the wall, and it disappeared over the center field wall. That's very good power to center field.
Now ready, as we mentioned, 7 home runs for Alvarez and his 2nd in this series, and 2 hits today. Pedro Alvarez and David Freese. What they've done this year, comparing the hot corner, these two. Freese leading in average and RBIs. And that is past David Freese into left field. Jones will stop there. David was well off the line.
First home run given up this season for Jake Westbrook.
Barb Kettlehut and Bill Beto enjoying the ball game today and retiring after 42 years at Footwear Unlimited. So congratulations to Barb and Bill, and enjoying their retirement, starting it right here at the ballpark. If you know those two, give them a shout. Say nicely done. So runner at first and 3 consecutive hits. Still nobody throwing for the Cardinals in the pen. A lefty throwing for Pittsburgh. Just got up. Bunted in the air. Westbrook makes the catch for the out. Garmas. He does have an RBI double. Pops it up and into an out. Eighth place hitter McHenry.
Drops the bat head, pops it up. Westbrook got a good jump on it. Nice break for St. Louis. Minimize the damage. You've already given up 2 runs in the inning. Don't make it worse. Just settle down, figure out a way to get a ground ball here. You just catch a break on a bad bunt attempt.
Here's a ground ball. Can they turn 2? Out at second. The turn. Yes, it's a double play. 5-4-3 and a strong arm shown there by Green on the turn. The ground ball that you know Jake Westbrook can get. He gets it there and gets the double play. Is brought to you by Taco Bell, Liv Moss, and by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. Look at City Garden here in the Gateway City. 3-2 Pittsburgh, thanks to Pedro Alvarez on top for the first time today. That's a look at Jared Hughes, and it's our Chevy call to the pin.
Yeah, we've seen him in this series already through 2 innings in game 1 of the series, and I, for one, am glad to see Eric Bedard out of this game.
Byproduct of the strikeouts is pitch count that does get high. He threw 104 pitches and 68 were strikes.
How did he escape this game with a chance to win it? He was on the ropes early on. Bunch of strikeouts. Now the Cardinals have to play catch-up.
So Jared Hughes recently called up after Evan Meek was sent down. And remember, Evan Meek was an all-star just 2 years ago. Trying to fight off injury and get back. It appeared in 9 games, did not have a good spring, and there's a swing and a miss by Robinson.
Hughes pitched in the game that Charlie Morton started and gave up 3 runs, only 1 of them earned in his 2 innings of work.
In the air out to left off the bat of Shane Robinson. 1 away. Robinson 0 for 3, making the start in right field today. You have Green and Cruz, and then Westbrook spot. Right-hander continues to throw for Mike Matheny's club.
And one thought to hold in the back of our minds as this game gets closer to the 8th and 9th is the fact that the Cardinals have Carlos Beltran available to pinch hit. And we saw what he did yesterday.
And with his versatility of being a switch hitter, it's a tough matchup.
Absolutely right.
Had to like what you just saw out of that turn from Tyler Green at second base, showing off his arm.
He looks smooth today. Glenn Hurdle would like to escape with a victory in this series. He realized he's facing a hot ball club in the Cardinals. Played very well at home. Cardinals are 8-3 here at Busch Stadium.
By the way, this is the third call-up already for Hughes this year. Two earned runs in 9 2/3. ERA under 2 the time when he was called up. Usually that's not a good thing to have 3 call-ups in the first month. Not a good thing for your team.
Right.
There's some injuries.
Yeah, minor leagues and big leagues a little bit different. I think fans often are unclear about the rules about the options, but Dan, you're really only getting one option per year, so you can go up and down multiple times in a year, and that's really just it's kind of a yearly deal.
And Tyler strikes out. Green is 0 for 3.
Speaking of the minor leagues, Tyrell Jenkins, one of our Twitter choices of tweets that I found interesting this week. Drive an hour and 45 minutes just to be told the field's too wet to play.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. Got to do better. That's Tyrell Jenkins, who's one of those guys that the Cardinals are trying to develop into a future big leaguer, and he is an active tweeter. 10, 20 a day.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So you want to know about Tyrell Jenkins, just follow him.
Broken bat, and Cruz is retired. The 1-2-3 inning for Hughes sends us to the 7th. 3-2 Pittsburgh. Is 25,000, but the rest Saturday, May 12th against the Braves, celebrating the 2011 World Championship. Cardinals.com/promotions, and a good portion of our fans come in as you get a look at Molina, who's trotting in for the bullpen and then warming up the pitcher, now going back out. But 60 to 70% of our fans, the weekends are from out of town. So if you're thinking about an out of town game or weekend series to come to, that Atlanta one is shaping up to be a really good one because of the Tony La Russa retirement night That should be a historic evening. It's Friday. You've got the lapel pin on Saturday and then the David Freese bobblehead on Sunday. And tickets still remain for all 3 nights. Do expect that La Russa game to be sold out shortly. Cardinals.com. And this is Josh Harrison sitting 208. And it's also the final weekend of seeing Chipper Jones wearing that Atlanta Braves uniform here in St. Louis, unless we'd see them in postseason play. Harrison hits it out to left, and Holiday over to make the catch. Cardinals would love to squeeze 2 more outs out of Jake Westbrook. He's due up first in the bottom half of this inning.
I was a little surprised Harrison didn't get a start here this afternoon. He really did a nice job off the bench yesterday. Had a couple of hits, really swung the bat well. Not a bad swing there. He just got under it just a bit.
Bedard has a chance to win the game if the Cardinals can't come back. 5 innings and he strikes out 11. Gives up the 2 runs. Hughes a scoreless inning, and now we're back to the top of the lineup for Pittsburgh. And Tabata. This has been a problem for the Pirates. Trying to find a leadoff man and a table setter. McCutchen was thought to be that guy, but he hits for power, so they've got to drop him down. But who can be the table setter in this lineup? Tough hop on Freese, and out to left it goes.
To get another look at that hop, and he certainly had his glove down, and the ball just jumps up. Ball was hit hard past Freese, and here's that hop. He's down and the ball's up. That's just a bad hop.
Ruled a base hit.
Ruled a base hit. I think that's the right call. A 3-hit afternoon for Tabata.
Presley has singled his 1 hit today, and that was in the 3rd. And that's going to be it with the lefty-lefty matchup here. Romero coming in, and Jake Westbrook is through for the afternoon. Recap. David Freese a double and RBI. Bedard the story for Pittsburgh on the ropes in the 2nd. Then he strikes out 11 in 5 innings. Jake Westbrook 6 in the 3rd. 9 hits and 3 earned runs. J.C. Romero, and it's our Chevy call to the pin, the lefty.
Pirates with a lefty switch, then 2 more left-handers. And they've got 3 right-handers on their bench, including Casey McGee, and they might choose to use him at some point. Romero's been decent, hasn't given up an earned run, had a rough spring training, but has been good. His job, get left-handers out. Simple as that. Not always simple. The first one is Alex Presley, the left fielder.
Mike has shown a propensity to stay with lefties beyond just getting the left-handed hitters out, and nobody's getting loose behind Romero here with another lefty, McLeod, on deck, and then the switch hitting Walker. Here's the 0-1. Little floater down the left field line. Could be trouble, and just foul. Cardinals catch a break. Just foul.
Presley trying to bunt at the first pitch, which I think is a bad baseball play. You've got to run at second base with one out. All you have to be thinking about is driving him in, not just moving him over. Then he slaps the ball the other way and almost picks up a base hit. Very, very close.
Mike Leach enjoying the ball game today, and got an email from Mike. Apparently he is the leader of the Eric Bedard fan club. Wanted to make sure that we gave him his proper due. So, all right, Mike, we've done that.
Well, part of the proper due is the fact that Bedard had, you said, got out of the jam in the second inning. He was 3-0 on Matt Holliday with the bases loaded.
Here's the 0-2 instead. Check on that runner at second base. That's Tabata. Gorgeous afternoon, day baseball here on Fox Sports Midwest.
CB Bucknor is the umpire at second base. He's back after having a groin injury in game 1, running down the first base line, and he had to actually sit out yesterday. He's back on the field. Glad he's back. We weren't 100% sure what was wrong with him. We knew he was in pain, and he was home plate umpire in game 1 of this series.
Our understanding is he was in the hospital too because they thought he may have had a ruptured appendix. So he had a situation that could have been very serious, but thankfully was not. McCutchen has left this ball game with the stomach flu. Runner goes, and it goes to the backstop, and Tabata thought about coming around to score, and he does not. Stolen base on the play. And the Cardinals may have caught a break there too. Tabata might have been able to score.
I think he would have. I think he picks out the fact that this is a breaking ball, so he takes off knowing it's a good pitch to run on, and he gets a lot more than that. And you hear no, 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 no from Nick Leva, the third base coach. And if that ball would have hopped up to Cruz, he'd have been out, but it stayed low, and he might have been safe. Just guessing. We'll never know.
And here's your ground ball, infield in, backhanded by Green. No play at the plate. Run scores, and it's 4-2.
Important batter in this game is what Romero can do with Presley. There's a pitch down in the zone. He gets the ground ball he wants, but he can't quite get it himself. Going on contact is Tabata. If that ball's right at Tyler Green, we might have had a bang-bang play at the plate, but Green had to go to his right to throw out Presley.
You mentioned last night that you thought the swing of Nate McLeod compared to what we saw earlier in his career has gotten a little bit long.
Yeah, he just seems long, and it seems to be trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark instead of kind of a nice short compact swing, and just doesn't quite have the feel for what he had early in his career.
The irony, by the way, Rick, of him being back is that he was traded to Atlanta after he signed a 3-year deal. That 3-year deal was to delay free agency. So what happens? He hits free agency and signs with the Pirates. Slow roller, and Romero to the bag. They just got him. All right, on this Thursday afternoon. It's time to stretch. Cardinals have to play catch-up downtown St. Louis in a beautiful afternoon. It's 4-2. Trivia question. Prior to last night, who was the last Cardinals player to collect 4 hits and 7 RBIs in a game at home? That's the key there, at home. Enos Slaughter, August 11th, 1946.
We mentioned Mark Whitten did it, but he did it in a road game.
It was at Cincinnati for Mark Whitten.
Enos Slaughter.
I believe yesterday was the anniversary of the 5 home run game by Stan the Man in the doubleheader. New pitcher in for Pittsburgh, and that's Juan Cruz, the only non-roster invitee to make the club for the Pirates this year. Here's Schumacher, and the first pitch is taken for a ball.
He's always had a live arm. We saw him here last night. Pitched a scoreless inning. Facing Skip Schumacher.
Schumacher is pinch hitting for Jake Westbrook. Or rather, Romero in that spot in the order. A changeup that time. See where Cruz and that changeup could be deadly, because he's got a lot of arms and legs, wiry coming at you, and all of a sudden he pulls the string. And a pretty good fastball too.
Pitchers come in all shapes and sizes, don't they? This guy does not look like a big, strong guy. Wiry is a good word for him. Scott Terry used to say he could tread water in a garden hose. You have to think about that one.
I got it.
Took me a couple of years to understand what he was saying.
Scott is teaching with Matt Whiteside and Scott Cooper, former Cardinal third baseman out at All-Star Performance, just off Highway 44 in Big Bend, and teaching kids day in and day out. They got an unbelievable facility over there. Proper mechanics and hitting, throwing, catching, pitching. Scott is really a guru on throwing mechanics, isn't he?
And if you have any question what I would think about Scott Terry's capabilities, my nephew is a pitcher in New York, a high school pitcher in New York, flew out a couple of times from New York just to get lessons from him based on my recommendation.
Wow.
He didn't want to listen to Uncle Rick, but sure did like Mr. Terry.
There's a strikeout of Skip Schumacher. Scott Terry former infielder turned into a pitcher. That's all-star performance off of Highway 44.
Time for another tweet. This one from Tony La Russa, who's excited. Fan was letting him know that he's glad that Tony's going to get his number retired, and Tony said he's excited too, and I believe that he is.
When I talked to Tony the other day, Tony said initially he told Bill DeWitt, don't do it. He said, I don't think it's right. I don't want to do it. I don't feel right about it. And he's changed his tune to the point, Rick, that now it's become what will be a great celebration that night of Tony and his days with Oakland, the White Sox, and St. Louis. And I don't think we can emphasize enough to get your tickets on what should be a special night here at the ballpark. And we'll carry that ceremony here on Fox Sports Midwest. Again, that's the first game in against the Atlanta Braves, May 11th. So we'll be in Houston and Arizona. We come back, and that's the Tony La Russa night, also the figurine giveaway on May 11th. And Bill basically told him, hey, we're doing it. So you're the man of the hour, and we're honoring you. Make sure that you are a part of it, because this is all for you. Two balls and a strike on Rafael Furcal. A 4-2 Pittsburgh lead.
What a difference a day makes as far as the Cardinal bats are concerned. Yesterday they couldn't miss a pitch anywhere. They were just hitting ropes all over the place. A lot of swings and misses today. They also taken a lot of pitches for call third strikes, and give Bedard some credit, but the Cardinal bats just not the same as they were less than 24 hours ago.
Big gap at right center. The 2-2 is taken low. Switch hitting for Cal. Bedard, as you mentioned, Rick, on the ropes. The starters the previous two nights on the ropes early, and they took advantage.
And I would say he was 1 or 2 pitches away from being out of this game in the second inning. If Matt Holliday hits a gapper and David Freese comes up with 2 outs, I mean, it could have been entirely different. In fact, if he doesn't catch that ball that's hit back up the middle, hit fairly hard by Matt Holliday on that 3-2 count with the bases loaded, may have saved a couple of runs with his play. And Burnett really struggled here. Did not miss very many bats.
And a walk-to for Cal, so tying run comes to the plate.
Cruz thought he had Furcal struck out. Very nice call by Dan Isanya, the home plate umpire. Just missed the outside corner. Now tying run at the plate in John Jay.
John Jay digs in. We're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Dan, Rick, Jim with you. Al will be with Pat on the postgame show as we wrap up the homestand this afternoon. 4-2 in favor of Pittsburgh. Bottom of the 7th, tying run at the plate. Jay does have 2 home runs this year.
He's capable. I'm still smelling a Beltran at bat against Joel Hanrahan with the game on the line in about 40 minutes.
Breaking ball, and it's 2-0. I'm sure if you're Carlos, you're itching too to get back out there and swing the bat after what took place last night.
Feels a lot better than he did 2 days ago.
Low 3-0. Nobody throwing right now for the Pirates in their bullpen. This is where You're asking for trouble. 3-0 on John Jay, and a dangerous man on deck.
And this is where what the Cardinals did the last 2 days has an effect on this game, because you've got a bullpen that's taxed right now for Pittsburgh.
Alvarez is playing in. The shortstop is near the bag at second, so lots of room to that left side of the infield. Big gap in right center. Find that always interesting that you play differently on the infield than you see how the outfield shifts the other way.
You can look at the charts on players, though. I've seen them over and over again where guys sometimes hit the ball in the air, in the outfield the other way, and on the ground they pull it. Just an oddity in the way people swing. And it really isn't that unusual.
That's low. So here comes Holiday again with a chance to do damage. As Rick told you moments ago, it was Matt Holiday with Bedard on the ropes. Bases loaded. Ahead 3-0. Took a strike. Eventually it worked to 3-2. There were 4 3-2 pitches delivered. And eventually Matt hit a bullet back to Bedard to end the inning. Curious about the Cardinals' run differential. Is it the best in baseball so far? It's Keith from Missouri. Carsheet.com. Email the booth question.
I'm so glad Keith asked this question because we've got a good answer for you. Yeah, it is. Cardinals have scored 63 more runs than they've given up. That's the best run differential in all of Major League Baseball. The Texas Rangers are off to a great start, and they're at 49 in the American League, but that's a huge number. Part of the reason why Jason Mott has so few saves and the Cardinals have so many wins is that they've had a fair number of games where the Cardinals have just blown out the other team, including Game 2 of this series. Cardinals won 12-3. They're a 3-run homer away from a happy flight here today.
So 2 on, 1 down. Holiday is homered in this series against the Pirates, and he's sitting on 5 this year. How about number 6? Looks at a strike. Off speed pitch.
Watson and Grilly getting loose for the Pirates.
Outfield very deep. Huge gap in left center. Ball scoots away, but staying put for Cole. It's always a tough read for the second runner. In this case, it would be John Jay. He's got to make sure that that runner in front of him commits.
Yeah, even if you think you can make it, you better be sure he left. Otherwise, you run yourself into an out. So you're always going to get a bit slower jump. You've got to wait to see what Furcal does. You're kind of looking in 2 different directions. They're the career numbers for Holiday against Juan Cruz. Pretty good.
Holiday pops it up. Shallow right field. 2 away with 2 on. So here we go again. 2 outs and a chance for David Freese. Freese with an RBI double in the first. He's grounded to third and walked. They play Freese very similar to what they did with Holiday, very deep in room in left center. I think that would be the right way to play, David, where you've got to respect his power to the opposite field.
No doubt about it. And a little bit of what you were talking about, really playing him to pull on the right side of the infield, but they're playing him to hit the ball the other way in the outfield. You have to take away that gap in right center field. That is where his power generally goes.
Up the middle. Shovel pass safe. Base hit for David Freese. The bases are loaded. Alan Craig a chance.
Another 2-out hit for David Freese. It does not produce an RBI because of the play by Barmes. Doesn't quite hit this ball hard enough. Hits it up the middle, right spot, but Barmes able to track it down, and he just can't get a strong throw to Walker. John Jay gets there quickly, clearly safe. Now Alan Craig with a chance to be a hero.
Barmes ranging to his left. That saved the run. And Alan Craig has an RBI double today. 1 for 3. There's a walk to for Kyle, walk to Jay, and David Freese the infield hit. Carlos Beltran has moved to the on-deck circle. Will we see him have a chance in the 7th? Right now it's up to Craig.
McLeod plays a fairly shallow center field.
Good numbers in this spot. Al brought up a really good point. Now the save rule is being looked at and maybe changed, where the other day we're talking about right now this is the game on the line instead of the 9th inning. Could be again in the 9th, but right now this is the game. Bases loaded and up by 2. 1-0 pitch, and Craig pulls it to third. Across the diamond it goes, and the play is made. Cardinal strand the bases loaded for the second time. Let's go to our studio across the way with this Bommarito Sports Update and Pat Paris. All right, thank you. And here is Victor Marte, who's made one of the best plays of the year. That was at Wrigley Field when he hopped off the mound and took a hit away. Victor was a closer last year at AAA Memphis. Compiled 31 saves and essentially was picked up for nothing from the Kansas City Royals, and here he is working out of the bullpen in the major league. So Victor Marte takes over for St. Louis, and there's the bullpen coach of the Pirates, Rick, and a gentleman that there's a lot more to his life than just baseball.
Euclides Rojas is his name, 44 years of age. He fled from Cuba with 12 others in 1994, and he was adrift for 5 days before the Coast Guard picked him up and sent him to Guantanamo Bay, where he spent the next 6 months. And it was a Cardinal pitcher at the time, Rene Arocha, that sponsored him to come to the United States, and he has been in baseball since then, played, and now is a bullpen coach and loves his job. And just really an interesting story as you think about some of the players that have to pay a bigger price than others, perhaps, to play at this level. Victor Marte, Cardinal pitcher, born in the Dominican Republic in Puerto Plata.
That is amazing, isn't it, though?
And he has shown some flashes, but to imagine what Rojas went through just boggles the mind, doesn't it?
Sure does. And you see the last 3 outings from Marte. I just think about Chapman and, you know, some of the players that have defected and what they've done just to get to this point. And just think about, we've talked a lot about the language barrier of the players and how tough it is to come to this environment, not understand the language, but to be away from your family, never know if you're going to see them again, what's happening with them, you're not in contact with your family.
And to risk your very life.
Right. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Walker. Fouls it, protects the plate with 2 strikes.
My understanding is Chapman had to become, or was able to become, a citizen of a country I've never heard of. Actually, a small little country in Europe. You'd think I would have heard of it.
He comes over right away, handed a check for about $30 million contract. Old chopper to second.
Risk reward.
You know what? Good for him.
Yep.
The David Freese bobblehead. Still a few tickets are available. That's Sunday, May 13th. You get to look at the bobblehead there on the left. It's brought to you by Scott's. That's a Sunday afternoon, May 13th against the Braves. Cardinals.com for that Freese bobblehead, which includes the MVP trophy as part of the bobblehead. The craze of bobbleheads. Al has his. You do not have one yet.
I do not, but I have one of Al's.
Ground ball too short. Steve Perry, who works in the visiting clubhouse in Houston, is a world famous bobblehead collector. You walk in and it's not a shelves full of books, it's shelves of bobbleheads.
But he doesn't have the perfect Al Roboski bobblehead that I have, that actually got slightly broken on one of the post-game shows. And
that's not the story I heard. I heard it was
Al and I had a little back and forth on that one. I wanted to see how far the head could twist, and it wasn't quite as far as I thought.
Thought it was more of a frustration one night with you and Al here in the booth, and you treated it as if he was your own personal voodoo doll. And poor Al, next thing I know, he's wearing a neck brace. Literally.
Well, I hadn't thought about that connection. But antagonizing Al probably would not have been a good move on my part.
No, it would not have. One ball, 1 strike on Garrett Jones. 40,601 at the ballpark today. 40601.
I've liked Marte's secondary pitches as much as his fastball. He showed a very good slider in spring training. And you could see why the Cardinals thought, boy, this is a guy that might be able to help us right now.
I think the guy that you're a little bit concerned about at this point, Fernando Salas.
Agreed.
Not looked good the other night. And
agreed.
Has not had that same look that we saw last year.
Here's Fernando. The care with Salas is you don't want to give up on him. You don't want him to give up on himself. You just have to kind of fight through it and see if he can get the right feel of the baseball. And it appears that his velocity's down a little bit. I'm not 100% sure of that, but he just doesn't seem to have the same pop.
Slicing out and left. Holliday diving for it and can't come up with it. Nearly a great catch by Matt Holliday. Turns into a double for Garrett Jones. Well, Rick, here's a question for you that if you're Mike Matheny, you're thinking about at this point. Holliday nearly came up with that catch. Remember, he was a third baseman by trade when he was drafted.
Nice effort.
When do you use that bullet of Carlos Beltran? Do you wait until you have men on? Do you lead him off an inning? You've got Shane Robinson due up first. But that's a guy you want to make sure that at some point he's used before this game is through.
Yeah, I wouldn't use him until you've got a chance for his home run potential to become an impact. So I'm not sure I'd use him right away. Wait till you get a runner on base. He's a tying run. And as I said, it'd be about 50 minutes down the road or 40 minutes down. 3:51 is the time I'd use him. That's what I was guessing. We're not there yet.
Be about 21 minutes.
Yeah. So that's my answer. 3:51.
Foul off the bat of Clint Barmes.
Actually, one of the funny things about the game of baseball is, unlike other sports, the clock never really matters. And I think it's part of the charm of the game. 40,000 people here don't know what time it is. Don't care right now.
Just a nice sunny day and taking in a little Major League Baseball. Out to center. Jay was playing in, and that's over his head. Barmes has made this now a 5-2 lead for Pittsburgh. John Jay was very shallow with Barmes at the plate, and he picks up the double. His second in this game, and he has 2 RBIs.
We talked about how well John Jay has been reading the ball off the bat, but he didn't read this one quite as well. I'm not sure he catches it anyway. In fact, I'm sure he won't. But he kind of took one step in, a little stutter step, and then took off. But he's still 20 feet away from that ball when it hit, so no chance to catch it. That ball was hit on the line to center field by Barmes. He's got a couple of doubles now.
Still baseball to be played, but the Cardinals, and you talked about it during the open, have not gotten over the hump and looking for a sweep.
Very lethargic looking offense today. It's not for lack of effort. It's just they're just not hitting. And the pitching has been good for the Pirates.
It's pulled foul.
And they've just not been able to manage the ability to sweep teams. I find it interesting that Mike Matheny has made the point, for those who think that he's adopted the let's win a series mentality, and the Cardinals have, okay, they've won the series now. He doesn't go by that. You know, Tony La Russa's idea of let's win series, Mike does not preach that. Mike doesn't disagree with it, but what he preaches is let's win today. He doesn't think about games in terms of series or months. Or folks were asking him, well, how did your first month go, and how do your, you know, what do you think about it as a month? He says, you know, I don't break the season up at all. The only way I can do it is just one day at a time. It's a cliche among baseball people. We hear it a lot, but that's the way he believes he wants to manage a ball club.
Freeze will make the play here. Cardinals trail 5-2. Only 6 hits on the afternoon. Midway through 8. Budweiser Select, full flavor, 99 calories, the exception to the rule. Five to 2 in favor of Pittsburgh, and Jason Grilli, second time we have seen him in the series, takes over for the Buccos. Mentioned that there was a bone chip that had been floating in his knee for more than a decade, Rick. And it went into an awkward position and shredded his quad muscle. He thought he was done. His career was over. And here he is, 10 games, record 1-1. His father, Steve, pitched in the major leagues for 4 years. Longtime scout. That happened at spring training in Arizona. He was with Cleveland at the time when he had that injury.
Matt Carpenter pinch hitting, not Beltran, since there's not a tying run at the plate situation. I think this makes sense. And you know, you were asking him his first appearance of this series, we were talking about that sense of him wanting to just pitch as long as he can and continue in this game despite the injury. And you wonder if being a second generation major league player gives him a clearer understanding about how short these careers are. He watches his dad go through that.
He said that. Yeah.
And you see it just as, you know, blink of an eye.
And he talked about that with his dad, and his dad was asked about it, and he said, look, my son just flat out has found the appreciation and the love of this game. He was the 4th overall pick out of Seton Hall to the Giants years ago. Played for 11 different minor league organizations. And this stage in his career, you've got to love it to come back from what he's done. Here's a 2-1 pitch to Carpenter. 3-1.
He doesn't look right here. He's missed very high and away in the last 2 pitches. Looks a little uncomfortable. Again, the Pirates bullpen really has been taxed in this series.
Especially last night with A.J. Burnett not getting out of the second inning, and Carpenter looks at a strike.
Cardinals need base runners.
We talked about it, how the day after start you win, you feel great. Best day at the ballpark. Well, not for AJ right now. To wonder what's going through his mind.
It's a long day. It's a long 4 days. I'm
sure a little self-doubt creeps in.
Well, the baseball expression, really the sports expression, is you have to wear it.
A 3-2 pitch to Matt Carpenter. Grilli comes back to strike him out.
It's the high fastball. Pitching up in the zone. Not all pitchers can do that.
That's one thing from Carpenter we've seen too. Rarely does he chase out of the zone. That looked to be ball 4. Here's Tyler Green. Cruz on deck. Grilli experienced that pain in spring training. He said it took him about 10 minutes to walk from his bed to the bathroom, and he said on a scale of 1 to 10 the pain was a 50. Thinking that his career was over. Frightening situation. And last year Clint Hurdle saw him for 28 appearances, and he wound up posting the lowest ERA of his career. Was very good with runners on. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
We tend to focus on it, Dan, when a new player comes to the big leagues and you kind of have an extended conversation about the fact that this represents a celebration not just for him but for his parents, his family, friends, coaches. But really that's true of every one of these players at this level. The guys that you'd say, well, they're just regular big leaguers. They've been here, but there's still a family and a support system behind them. And there's always a lot more to that story. We talked about Rojas and what he had to do to get to this level. Everybody has a story. Cardinals need base runners.
Three-2 pitch to Green. And there's a walk. Cardinals have had plenty of those today. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Yadier Molina will pinch hit, and Carlos Beltran has moved to the on-deck circle.
Well, we're hoping Carlos can get up to the plate as the tying run at 351. And I would say at this point, Molina hitting for Tony Cruz makes a lot of sense because this 8th inning may be your best chance at the Pirates. Hanrahan, their closer, very tough to get to. This, I believe, is like the 9th inning from the Cardinals' point of view. They use your bullets right here.
That's taken low. 2 balls and no strikes. Two and one. From a Pittsburgh perspective, Rick, they have to be thrilled with seeing Alvarez show off some power. A couple of hits today. Really an impressive home run in the left center.
And the recovery from what happened yesterday.
Right.
Not just from his point of view, but the entire team.
He is so important to what they're trying to do and build. Not guarding the line, and the 2-2 pitch to Molina.
Probably a good idea to send Tyler Green, even though you're down by 3. Stay out of the double play. Not going.
Molina with a fly ball into right center. Nate McLouth makes the catch. Green is back to the bag at first, and it brings in Beltran.
Got 9 minutes early, Dan.
I know you were keeping tabs on that.
And it would have been nicer if he represented the tying run at the plate, too, but still a chance to get the Cardinals closer with one swing of the bat.
Beltran, a career high in RBIs with 7 last night. Pair of 3-run homers. 4 hits. Hits it down the right field line. It's hooking and foul. I've said it before, but the ball truly just jumps off his bat.
It really does. Timing was off last week to 10 days, but yesterday it all came together. 7 RBIs.
That's out of play. 0-2 the count with 2 down. Good cut. Beltran and the Cardinals in Houston tomorrow. Really, that postseason with the Astros gave him that big deal with New York. And that's a strikeout. And the inning comes to a close. We head to the 9th, and the Pirates have the lead of 5-2.
Coming up after the game on the post-game edition of Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. Pat Paris and Al Raboski are standing by. Some missed opportunities in this one for the Cardinals. They'll break it down. We'll have player reaction from the Cardinal clubhouse, as well as Mike Matheny's post-game comments. Kyle McClellan on to pitch for the Cardinals. We go back to the booth and Dan and Rick, guys.
Thanks, Cat. Good work here this afternoon. Kyle McClellan entering the game for the 11th time this season. Only Fernando Salas has pitched more out of the bullpen for the Cardinals. He had a scoreless frame here last night, and he will face the pinch hitter Casey McGee. Former Brewer with some pop, takes the first pitch high. Matt Carpenter is the new right fielder. And the slider, strike one, 1-1. Yadier Molina has taken over behind the plate as well. Here's a line drive, and that's fair inside the bag, past a diving David Freese. And Casey McGee has led off the ninth with a stand-up double.
Casey McGee picked up for Jose Veras by Pittsburgh. Veras in the bullpen for Milwaukee. Just past David Freese. It's been walks for the Cardinals that they have not been able to capitalize on today, and a number of doubles for Pittsburgh. 2 off the bat of Clint Varmus. Here's Jose Tabata. Back to McClellan, and he's got him hung up between second and third. They can just run him back to the bag. Freese will tag him out. You know, McClellan did the right thing by making sure that that runner goes back to his original bag, but I thought he threw it too quickly.
Absolutely right. He started out correctly. You take the angle to get the runner to go back. He was just standing there waiting for McClellan to make him commit. You just have to run at him hard, get in front of him, but make him run. You can't throw it until he started running. And with him being flat-footed, he was able to take off to third. And once you do that, the trail runner is able to advance. So he almost got it right.
And hustling was Tabata. He winds up at second base. There's one down. A 5-2 game in favor of Pittsburgh, and here is Alex Presley. A strike on the outside corner.
6 extra base hits for the Pirates, who have been struggling offensively.
Tampa Bay, that's a final now. They beat Seattle 4-3, so 3 finals are in for Major League Baseball this afternoon. Many are excited, rightfully so, watching Lance Lynn go to 5-0 last night. Remember, Kyle McClellan, when he was in the rotation, had a start of 4 or 5-0.
Sure
so
did.
you
Sure
temper
did.
expectations along the way a little bit.
Well, you can't project and say, okay, he did that in a month, so let's see, 6 times 5. We got a 30-game winner on our hands. I think that would be a dangerous line of thought. But to say that you've got somebody who's capable and filling the gap quite nicely, I think you could say that pretty confidently in Lance Lynn. And Jake Westbrook was okay today. 6+ innings, 4 runs. Did give up 9 hits. The control was still pretty good for Westbrook. Just 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Timely hitting for Pittsburgh, and Cardinals not able to match that.
And a call, 3rd strike.
Curveball from McClellan, trying to catch that outside corner.
Two down, and Nate McLeod. That is hammered out to right. And is it caught? No, they're going to say it was trapped. A run will score. That call was made immediately. Matt Carpenter is your right fielder. He's glancing up at the big board, and that's going to cost McClellan and the Cardinals a run.
Very close to being a catch. We'll look at it one more time. Does he catch it? No, he traps it. It's actually a good call. Got it right. Ball hits the ground. Still a good effort by Carpenter, but Dale Scott, the crew chief, was right on that.
I'll be honest with you, I still can't tell.
Well, that's one of the dreaded problems with instant replay. You can look at the same thing, two different people, and see different things, but I thought that ball hit the ground. Either way, Kyle McClellan not able to keep the runner from advancing from first to second on the ground ball back to him, cost him a run.
Yeah, that's the story on that play, no doubt. So the Pirates pick up that run to make it 6-2, and that's it out of play. Great work by Mark Winter on our Fox Box today, keeping up with the score and the balls and strikes. He's always on it. Tom Mee, our director. Mike Helling, our producer. Dan Hyatt, Danny Martinez, Keith Oberman, Brian McCann, all part of it that makes this thing go. 0-2 the count. Holiday is over, and Fighting the Sun makes the catch. Final hope for the Redbirds. They're down by 4. And this is our Nissan drive of the game. Rafael Furcal is off to a very nice start this year. Leadoff double in the game. He later scored. Cardinals jumped out to a 2-0 lead. But the Pirates
have continued to score, a run in the 4th, 2 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And that makes the job pretty tough here in the bottom of the 9th because they're facing a very tough closer. Not a safe situation. Joel Hanrahan can be very, very nasty. Throws
All-star too.
Yeah, throws very hard.
So bottom of the 9th, and the pitch to Furcal is taken low. Eric Bedard has a chance to be a winner today. He struck out 11. If the Cardinals cannot come back in this ball game.
Most closers become closers because they have good command of 2 pitches. They're not going to hurt themselves by walking people. Hanrahan does have 6 walks this year in 7 innings. Had a hamstring issue a couple of weeks ago that affected him and his control somewhat. Already behind 3-0 on Furcal.
Cardinals will throw Loesch, Garcia, and Wainwright this weekend at Houston. All 3 games on Fox Sports Midwest. Lots of walks and lots of strikeouts in this ball game. Pirates have struck out 15 hitters today. Last time that happened in a 9-inning game was back in 1985 for Pittsburgh against St. Louis. A strike to John Jay. Jay, foul. One ball and 2 strikes.
The 0-2 pitch. Pretty good location. Should have been strike 3.
Kept in front. He evens it up at 2-2. Jay with a bouncer that's grabbed by McGee out there, and that's the only out that they'll get, the lead man. Nice play there by Casey McGee, a third baseman by trade.
Yeah, that's McGee coming off the bench, making a good, quick move to his right, throwing off balance, right on the money. It's such a tough throw for Barmes to make when the pitcher's covering, running, and then have to look over his shoulder to make the play, but he might have had time to get John Jay had he thrown the baseball.
Low and outside to Holiday. Turn to our player of the game, brought to you by Budweiser, and that's Pedro Alvarez. 2 for 4, 2-run homer, a single, 2 runs scored.
I give him credit. If you'd have told me Hadn't seen him play the last 2 weeks, and you told me this morning, and I just showed up at the park, and you said, you know what, Alvarez just got sent to AAA, and Casey McGee's going to be the third baseman the rest of the year. I'd have believed that. He has really battled back.
Strikeout of Holiday. Mets had a tough afternoon. 2 down with the runner at first.
97 miles an hour will give you a tough afternoon. 4-seamer. A little hop to it. Can't lay off it, can't hit it.
David Freese. Freese with a double. Walk, a single. He's also grounded out. The strike as Jay will take second. Defensive indifference. Well, this guy throws hard. Joel Hanrahan, picked up from Washington. Niger Morgan was part of that deal. Pretty good deal for Pittsburgh. Count is even, 2-2. Runner at second with 2 outs here in the ninth. Taken low. Craig is on deck. And give Bedard credit for hanging in there. He strikes out 11 and a chance to win this game. And that's a walk to David Freese. This has got to be driving Clint Hurdle nuts down in that dugout.
There's no doubt. Pirates have put themselves in a position to win this game. Bedard with his strikeouts. The Pirates offense coming through. You just do not want to see walks late in games. And there have been 5 in the last 3 innings.
The trap moments ago by Matt Carpenter looms large, led to a run. Also the rundown that allowed a runner to come to second base and score.
Otherwise you've got the tying run at the plate.
Right. Upstairs to Alan Craig. Carpenter is on deck. Craig with the RBI double back in the first. He is struck out, flied out, and grounded out. Hanrahan nowhere close. He's throwing hard. That last pitch, upper 90s, but this will be pitch number 23 of the inning as he'll get a visit from McHenry.
We learned in October that it's okay to hope for crazy things to happen. A walk to Craig here. Matt Carpenter has shown some power. One swing of the bat. It could happen.
Gap in left center. The 2-0 pitch to Alan Craig. Craig with a bouncer foul. You see when watching Holiday, when he struck out that swing by Alan Craig, you just don't get very comfortable looks at a guy like Hanrahan.
Very defensive swing right there for Alan Craig. A borderline pitch away. And again, the Cardinals down to their last strike.
David Freese, the only Cardinal starter not to strike out today. The 2-2 pitch to Alan Craig. Grounder foul. The 2-2 again. Craig with a fly ball out to deep center field. That's off the base of the wall. One run is in. They'll hold up the runner at third. Alan Craig has given hope to the fans here at Busch Stadium. There's a rocket off his bat. It's now 6-3. Matt Carpenter represents the tying run.
Now how big is that run in the top of the ninth inning? Cardinals would be a base hit away from tying this game otherwise. Matt Carpenter does have some occasional power.
It's 26 pitches by Hanrahan this inning, and they've got a righty getting loose in their pen.
We've seen a lot of Ray Searage in this series.
A lot of them today. They have one lefty in their pen, that's Watson, and he had not been up and throwing to face Carpenter. Clint Hurdle saying, this is my closer, I'm sticking with him. One swing of the bat, this game could be tied. Matt Carpenter does have one home run. 14 RBIs this year. Struck out 0 for 1 today. Did not start the ball game.
Cardinals have one player left on their bench. Daniel Descalzo.
Oh, 0-2. The pitching staff of Pittsburgh today, 16 strikeouts. That's the most they've had since 2000. They struck out 16 against the Florida Marlins.
Carpenter has to shorten up again. Cardinals down to their last strike.
0-2 pitch. The 1-2 pitch on its way. Carpenter, a strikeout, kept in front by McHenry, and the ball game comes to a close. The Pirates hold on. They win it 6-3, and they salvage a game in this series.
Cardinals made it interesting in the ninth inning, but way too little too late. Missed some opportunities. The Pirates racked up the strikeouts here this afternoon to avoid the sweep.
3 hours, 26 minutes. Looked like the Cardinals may pull one out. They couldn't late. But don't go away. The Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live post-game show is next on Fox Sports Midwest.